Good day today, and welcome. A different day today, a different tone today. Yesterday, a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation for the postseason, or more so for the weekend coming up, possibly leading to the postseason. Hopes of the postseason. Yesterday at this time, we were talking about our plans. We were talking about how, I was telling everybody I'm going to, do some food, go down to the bar. I couldn't wait to sit down and watch Buffalo and Cincinnati last night. The play two really good teams, probably the best matchup on Monday Night Football we've seen all season long. Two teams with seeding ramifications and such, and then obviously early on in that ball game with 5 minutes, just over 5 minutes to go in the first quarter, the scene unfolded on the field in Cincinnati that. I think, quite frankly, it shocked us all. I shouldn't say nobody, but we have never seen CPR on the field before. We've seen a lot of things. We've seen guys go down with head injuries. We saw Tua on that exact same field go down with his second concussion in a matter of 4 days and tense up and what have you. We saw Ryan Shazier injured and his body lifeless. I mean, he still was awake and alert, but his body lifeless as the shock to his spinal cord left him laying motionless on the carpet. What we saw last night was we all saw it, so I don't have to describe it, but we saw an outpouring of emotion from both sides, whether you were from Bills Mafia, Bengals fans, both teams. We saw the attempt to regroup. And then finally, Sean McDermott just kind of looked at his guys and said, we can't do this. We can't do this. And kudos to Sean McDermott. And then even to Zach Taylor when he came over to the sideline and they looked at each other and we can't do this. I thought Troy Aikman during that broadcast, and let me say this, if you've ever, it's very difficult to see something like that. I've never seen anything like that. I've been covering sports since 1992. I've been playing it since probably the late 70s. I've never seen anything like that. And I've seen some kind of wicked things in my day. I've never seen anything like that. Never. We know about players that have had heat stroke. We know about, say, Corey Stringer up in Minnesota when he collapsed and he died of the heat stroke. And then there was a lot of look into certain things that, players and such were taking and trying to lose weight and working out in the heat. And, then rules were put in place for that. And things that, we've seen in the past, you can say, okay, we can prevent this. This was you can't prevent. And we don't even specifically know what exactly caused it and what it was. We've seen different speculation, and I don't want to go too deep into that. But we've never seen anybody given CPR and hit with the defib paddles on the field where his jersey's cut off, his shoulder pads are cut off so they could get to the man's chest to begin chest compressions, and then to hit him with the defib paddles to get his heart started again. We've never seen that. And you couldn't help but think not only of the teammates that had to sit there and witness this, some of them turning their backs because they just couldn't. The overwhelming influx of mental anguish, it was almost unwatchable for some. But then you think, and I couldn't help but think of his mom, his parents, his friends and family that were in the stands that are watching this. This is the equivalent of stadiums being filled back in the day to watch gladiators fight to the death. This guy damn near gave his life to play football. So we witnessed something we'd never seen before. I know you go back to, I think they had talked about an incident with a Lions player who had a heart attack. And this was back, I think it was probably right about the time. I mean, I think it was either out, not born yet, or I was a little kid, but I don't remember anything like that. But the scene is obviously different. The cameras are obviously different. The ability to get into close up wise is obviously different. And I commend ESPN for the way they handled it. But going back to what I wanted to say, Troy Aikman had said something rather poignant. It got kind of lost in the conversation when they took Hamlin off the field in the ambulance, and as both sidelines started to regroup, he said, "I don't think I could play the game not knowing if he's okay." Because most players that get put on a stretcher, they give you the thumbs up. They're talking. Guys will go over. Hey, hey man, we got you. The guy will talk to them. Thanks. Go get them. Whatever. You've got that communication. He lets you know that he's going to survive. He's okay, and you can go back out and play. This you didn't know if they just took a teammate that's going to be okay or a dead man off the field. You don't know. And I think everything was done right last night. I know that it's a game of importance. I understand all of the ramifications with that. But last night was about the human element, the human equation. And sometimes we forget when we call these guys bums and losers and worthless. And I think there was a lot of adjectives that have been used about players and such. And I get it all the time on Twitter when somebody doesn't make a tackle, doesn't make a play, looks as if they're not trying. I mean, there's all kinds of adjectives that fans throw out. But last night was the human equation, and that could not be denied. And I think, like many of you, I stayed up last night until, and I had friends of mine in Cincinnati that were texting me, that were letting me know what was going on, and they'd gotten some information. Obviously, his marketing agent had posted on Twitter, and I reposted that he had a breathing tube. He was being sedated. They were going to run additional tests. He had a cardiac arrest. So it was rather dire looking. But I'll give you just a little of my background into this to give you kind of the sense. That exact trauma center was where I was taken on December 4th of 2015. And for those that have followed me throughout my career, you know that I had an incident with a snowblower in which my heart stopped. And that's the exact same place that I was taken, in the exact same ER, in the exact same trauma center, where you get incredible care. It's I know everybody says it's considered one of the best in the country, but it really is. It's really top-notch care. My cousin used to work there as a nurse. So I texted her last night and I said, "Hey," she worked, seen you ever see this? She said, "One, there's two things to remember. One is that the ambulance waited for his family to get into the ambulance and go to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center with him, which is a good sign, because had it been dire to where he kept arresting, they never would have stopped. They would have sped out of there and got him there within minutes." She said, so that was probably a pretty good sign that at least he was somewhat stable, still critical, but stable. She said the other is the way they work in Cincinnati is they're extremely cautious. They do not give out information. They don't like to hold press conferences when it comes to anything, whether it's shooting victims or what have you. They don't like to hold press conferences. So it's not out of the norm for them to say, "We're not going to do this. We'll not release information." And if they do, it's either a hospital spokesperson or it's via press release. So everything that kind of went on last night was kind of expected as it unfolded or didn't unfold. But at least it kind of went along the lines of what I was being given. So, and I talked to our buddy Mo Egger down in Cincinnati. Was texting him and just kind of see what was going on. And boy, the outpouring of support of Bills fans and Bengals fans and holding the vigils in front of the hospital last night and down at the stadium last night. They said it was walking out of the stadium last evening. They said it was surreal. Nobody was talking other than saying, "I hope he's okay." It was a very it was a very surreal moment. So, I know it's something everybody's talking about. Everybody deals with it and emotionally differently for what you saw, because nobody has seen anybody drop in front of us before. And I know there were some people that were downplaying it, saying he fainted. He didn't faint. He had a heart attack right there on the field. When fainting is fainting and you're still breathing. When they have to provide CPR and give you oxygen and hit you with the paddles to get your heart started again, that's it. I mean, that's about as close to death as you can possibly come. So, and I know. So it's you hope that today the information that comes out is he's been stabilized. He's out of critical condition. I know they were running tests on his brain and on his heart last night and this morning, and so now you just wait and see. The other side of this that I think is unfairly being vilified is the NFL. Um, you know, Players, first of all, think they're invincible, and secondly, they do it for the love of the game, the love of the competition, the love of the machismo, the love of the money, the love of competition. Um, yes, the NFL gets the rap for being a meat market and uncaring and not considering and such. And I've seen that ugly side of it. But this is the ugly side of the game in which these guys do put their bodies on the line. So whether that was caused by the blow to his chest, the exertion, or there was just some hidden ailment that nobody saw, nobody caught in any physical, we don't know. So I'm not going to sit here and vilify the NFL. I'm not going to vilify the Bills. I'm not going to vilify the Bengals. I'm not going to vilify the Players Association. None of them. It's just, this is a tragic incident that we all have never seen happen. And you hope that we never see it again. But you just kind of wait. You just wait and see. So let's do this. I'm going to step away, take a quick break. I'll open up phone lines if you want to chime in. 877-867-1670. You can do so. And there's one more side of this I want to go to when we come back. And we'll get into that discussion as well. But I just thought there was a lot of poignant things displayed last night and some really solid discussion and coverage last night. And I want to bring some of that to you as well. Stay tuned. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends over there at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We'll be back right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
This January, hit the road to riches at Potawatomi Casino Hotel. Play each day for thousands in free play and entries into the big $200,000 grand finale. The more you play, the closer you get to big money. So, hit the road, Jack, or Jill, or whatever your name might be. The road to riches, only at Potawatomi. For more details, visit paysbig.com/road2riches. Must be 21 years old to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. I know it's after the holidays, but if you are looking for jewelry repair, trade up, new, or a hearts on fire, rocking your world, let Kane and Kane Jewelers in West Bend. Kane and Kane, Koehn, KaneJewelry.com. That's KaneJewelry.com. Let them rock your world. Also, go to the website and scroll to the bottom of the page. Andy Kane, who is the proprietor, and it's been in his family for years and years. He does a great podcast called the Buy Like a Guy podcast, and you can see his stuff there too. That's Kane and Kane Jewelers in West Bend. Let them rock your world, as they say. Yeah, there you go. That's our good friends at Kane and Kane Jewelers. So last night, Twitter it can be toxic. Social media can be toxic. We all know that. We've all we've all been there, done that at some point in time. We've all seen something that's aggravated us, incited us, targeted us, whatever. But last night, what you saw, people wanted to do something for Damar Hamlin. And what they found was his charity and the GoFundMe page. He was trying to raise $2,500 for a charitable venture. And as of today, it stands at $3.3 million because people began to dig into the social media side of his wants and such and his good doings. And they were pulling up so many different things, interviews of him talking about how he cherished life and, obviously his charity, things that he had stated about his joy of starting. So it was really cool last night. It was really cool to see the outpouring of support and emotion and people wanting to do something, anything. It couldn't help this man laying in the hospital, but you could help somebody in his name. So it was great to see. So social media had its place last night, and I thought that was fantastic. But going back to the broadcast with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, and I was watching Twitter, and the pessimists, the people that are always negative, started to come out of the woodwork, and about how they kept going to commercial and they're selling commercials while a guy's laying on the field. No, what they were doing was respecting the moment. That's what they were doing. They were everybody wanted to know what was going on. We all wanted to know. Okay, how bad was it? We wanted the up close television view. Show us. It's the car wreck we don't want to look at, but we want to look at it. And instead, they did the right thing, and they just sat in silence. They let the scene play out in your mind. They gave you a little bit of commentary, some inner thoughts. You could tell everybody was emotional, and they said, "Well, just continuously, we'll be right back." And that was the thing to do. And then eventually, when the game was postponed, and when they kicked it back to the studio, and I think we all saw it because it was on both ABC and ESPN, when they went to break and then kicked it back to Scott Van Pelt in the studio, the interview he did with Lisa Salters on the sideline reporter from Monday Night Football, and her getting emotional after witnessing what she'd witnessed, and the players just kind of milling around and what they were going through, and trying to bring you into the story, even though we had witnessed it. I thought they did a magnificent job. And Scott Van Pelt is eloquent. He is articulate. And then they brought in Ryan Clark. And Ryan Clark was a guy that almost passed, if you remember his stint in the hospital. So Ryan Clark brought an entirely real, compassionate, and passionate perspective to last night and the coverage that ESPN, you have to do it. I mean, you can't just say, okay, we're going to go on to other things. This is a moment in which we all witnessed it as a nation. There was millions of people were viewing this game last night. Most of us were. We're all sports fans. Most of us were. And I thought that Ryan Clark gave a brilliant, from the heart discussion, speech, whatever you want to call it, dissertation of the moment and what he was thinking. Take a listen to what Ryan Clark had to say last night.
I think the first thing, this is about Damar Hamlin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a young man at 24 years old that was living his dream, that a few hours ago was getting ready to play the biggest game of his NFL career, and there's probably nowhere else in the world he wanted to be. And now he fights for his life. And when Damar Hamlin falls to the turf, and when you see the medical staff rush to the field and both teams are on the field, you realize this isn't normal. You realize this isn't just football. And so many times in this game, and in our job as well, we use the cliches. You know, I'm ready to die for this. I'm willing to give my life for this. It's time to go to war. And I think sometimes we use those things so much, we forget that part of living this dream is putting your life at risk. And tonight, you know, we got to see a side of football that is extremely ugly, a side of football that one ever wants to see or never wants to admit exists. When you see both teams on the field crying in that way, your first thought is Damar Hamlin.
Yep.
The second thought is his family. And this isn't about a football player, right? This is about a human. This is about a brother. This is about a son. This is about a friend. This is about someone who is loved by so many that you have to watch go through this. I dealt with this before, and I watched my teammates for days come to my hospital bed and just cry. I had them call me and tell me that they didn't think I was going to make it. And now this team has to deal with that, and they have no answers. Mm-hmm. And so the next time I think that we get upset at our favorite fantasy player, or we're upset that the guy on our team doesn't make the play, and we're saying he's worthless, and we're saying you get to make all this money, we should remember that these men are putting their lives on the line to live their dream. And tonight, Damar Hamlin's dream became a nightmare for not only himself, but his family and his entire team.
So there you go. In a 2-minute, 13-second summation, that was about as eloquent and as well put as you can possibly put it. Just an FYI, in my opinion. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to chime in, please feel free. Go ahead and do so. Let's go to the phone calls. Let's talk to Mike listening to us in Cudahy. Mike, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Well, I'll tell you, this really does need a lot of attention here. And I don't want to blow it off, and I want to change the subject matter. But I feel the same way everybody does, and I'll never forget the day and the time and everything that I saw this. It's not a 9/11, but in the sports world it is. So I think everybody they know where they were, who they were with, what they were doing at these certain times in their lives. But definitely this just strikes home that
Mhm.
everyone's mortal, and heart disease is a deadly silent killer. It can happen anytime to anybody at any age. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we take this stuff for granted. This kind of should make us all feel that we should feel pretty grateful and thankful for what we got. But moving along here with the Pack playing the Lions here on Sunday.
Sure.
What I'll tell you something. Whatever happens from that point forward, I'm proud of the team. You know, I mean, I gave up on them a few weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
So I'll be eating crow. If they go one game into the playoffs after they get into the playoffs, I'm just happy with them recovering and at least salvaging part of the season anyway. Whatever happens, but I enjoy watching them. Doesn't matter if they win or lose.
Nope.
So.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I think at this point, anything the Packers do in the postseason is, I'm not going to say gravy because that's not what the expectation is. But anything they do compared to where they were, and I was one of them. I've stated this time and again, I was one of them. And I'm glad if they get into the postseason. I'm gladly to say I was wrong. Because after that Detroit game, I didn't see a lot of correct in this team. But anything they do in the postseason is getting to the postseason is a feat because they haven't done it yet. Anything they do in the postseason, it would be remarkable. If they should win in advance, and I put all the scenarios over on the Facebook fan page and retweeted it yesterday as well. But if you go there and you look at all the different scenarios for the Green Bay Packers and as to who they could play, if Philadelphia, knocks off the Giants and Minnesota beats Chicago, and then Arizona should beat San Francisco, the Packers go to Minnesota. Most of the other scenarios have them going to San Francisco. There is one in which they could end up going to Philadelphia, and that is if the Giants beat the Eagles, Washington beats Dallas, and San Francisco then beats Arizona. The Packers would then end up going to Philadelphia because San Francisco would take over as the number one seed. But the rest of it is either San Francisco or Minnesota, most of those scenarios. So there's, I think, 4 or 5 scenarios that puts them in San Francisco. There's 3 scenarios that puts them in Minnesota, 1 that puts them in Dallas, and 1 that puts them in Philadelphia. But regardless, it's if they win and they're in, and that's all there is to it. And anything they do beyond that is would be impressive. But if they would go to San Francisco, and which is the most likely, if they win, and if they would go to San Francisco, and if they would win in San Francisco, I think at that point in time is when you think to yourself, whoa, wait a minute. You just beat the number 1 defense and a pretty good scoring offense. And now I think the rest of the world would have to sit up and take notice and say, wait a minute, not only did this team get hot, but now they're for real. So I think that would be, and that would be the take notice moment, without a doubt. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. Phone lines wide open, 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, please feel free. Go ahead and do so. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And as the rain falls and it's going to turn colder throughout the week, make your house more economical right now. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. They with mine, I can take a video camera downstairs right now and show you. It's sitting right there at 70 degrees where I keep it. It doesn't fluctuate. It's perfect. That room used to go 5, 7, 8 degrees difference in the wintertime than what the actual temperature was set at because the door leaked so bad. And it wasn't like leaking like wind was coming in. It was just letting the heat out and the cold in. And when I had that door replaced, the one thing I was anxious for was really cold weather because I wanted to see if that door would kind of, keep up because that room is so big, and damned if it didn't. It's amazing. The house is more economical. The house is more beautiful, obviously, more valuable. I mean, that door adds a lot of value. Now all the doors, all the windows are replaced in this house, and the house is more valuable. And then you can get it with different colors, different interiors, different exteriors, different hardware. Everything can match your style. Everything can match your current decor. It's awesome. Go to PellaWI.com, P-E-L-L-A, PellaWI.com, or call them 855-PELLA-WI and set up your free in-home consultation. 855-PELLA-WI.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Even when the weather outside is frightful, your energy bill could be much more delightful. Hi, I'm Gina Della from Pella. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. You'll help kick the January blues when you choose to book by the 31st for 0% interest up to 2029. You heard that right. No interest up to the year 2029 if you book by January 31st. Pella's premium wood windows and patio doors feature distinguished craftsmanship and nearly endless possibilities, with maximum design flexibility in dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Hurry! To get the 0% interest up to 2029, you have to book by January 31st. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
It's Albanese's Roadhouse on Blue Mountain Road out in Waukesha. If you're looking for really good Italian food, right next to Menards, right across the street from Home Depot, you're going to see that family-owned business that's been there a long, long time. Joey and his staff do such a great job. I get this meatball sandwich every time I go in there. Kristen loves the lasagna and the Italian sausage. They just have terrific food, but it's a great atmosphere, good people, very homey. So stop in, and they have bocce ball leagues pretty much year-round. So if you're looking to do something with a group of people or by yourself and meet new people, they have that going on as well. There's Dominic Sports Bar inside. Stop into Albanese's Roadhouse and tell them we sent you. Tell them we sent you, but it's a terrific, terrific place. And if you got a party or catering, too, they do that as well. 877-867-1670. The one thing and I've had numerous people now ask today over on Twitter, 2 emails, and a couple people mention this, but the Skip Bayless thing, people love to hate Skip Bayless, and I'm I understand. I didn't listen to and I don't, so I can't say I didn't today because I don't listen to Skip and Shannon. It's not something to pay attention to. I think it's I just don't think it's very good. But I didn't listen to it today. I don't know if he apologized or not, but
he did.
Did he? Okay.
I mean, he in a Skip way,
in his Skippish way,
like he addressed it. I would say,
yeah, he's an ass. That's all I can say. I have zero respect for Skip Bayless, other than the fact that he has played the villain extremely well. He is the WWE of sports talk, or whatever you want to put it. But this guy, for people that say, well, he's a talk show. No, he was a sports writer. He knows better than to hit enter. And the timing of all of that. And I think he's a scumbag. I don't like the man. I wouldn't have him on my program. And I just, that's where I'll leave it. And I'll leave it at that. 877-867-1670. Let's go to Spencer listening to us up in Wausau. Spencer, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Bill, hey, first of all, I've called in the show a few times. I don't have the words, to say watching the broadcast last night, how I felt. It's the first time in my lifetime I've witnessed something along this line happen during a football game. And it just kind of brought everything into perspective that although we're diehard NFL fans, we live and die with football. There's a moment in time where that game becomes exactly what it is, a child's game. So again, prayers and just thoughts for Damar Hamlin. I wanted to also get your thoughts about the broadcasting side last night. I know you touched on it briefly about 10 minutes ago, but John Van Pelt, Lisa Salters, the team in the studio, Adam Booger and Susie. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but even Joe Buck and Troy Aikman last night.
Yeah.
A phenomenal job to just keep everybody's composure. I just want to get your thoughts on that. And one thing I would touch on as well, I didn't have the thoughts coming into it, but as soon as he said it, the Skip Bayless thing, he should be let go. He should be essentially let go from Fox Sports, because I agree with you 100%. The man hit send knowing full well what he was doing.
Right.
And I think he was just the scummiest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
From that kind of person. Because I know his job is to be the villain, but there's a point in time, again, where you're no longer a villain and you become, and I'll mince words here a little bit because I know you're on the air and I don't want to get you canceled, but there's a time and place to be a person rather than an ass.
Right. No, I completely agree with you and appreciate the phone call. I think what he did last night was wrong. And like I said, he's an educated man. He's a writer. He knows when he hits enter. It wasn't like he just blurted it out and then said, okay, it was an untimely comment. This was something he took time to write and then hit enter. And it was extremely poor taste and bad timing. Extremely. Going back to the broadcast last night. Now, I have never been a part of that, I have to say. I do have a news background. I did news at WCPO in Cincinnati. I've done some freelance news. I did news on the day of 9/11, as a matter of fact, when we were all called in. I was working at WTMJ at the time. And and again, going back to where, knowing where you were and you'll never forget. And they called and said, all hands on deck. So we went from being sports people to news people. And because of my news background, I got a chance to do that a little bit. Not that I wanted to, but it's what you have to do. The day that Irv Favre died, I went from being sports to news, breaking that news. I don't know. There's people that do it extremely well. I don't know how to describe it, because what you're trying to do is be sensitive to the moment, be factual. That's the one thing, because people want to know. And this is a moment that is very big. And it's not a career maker or breaker for you personally. But what you don't want is to put out something that's a rumor, that's false, to put out something that's erroneous. Last night, the marketing agent for Damar Hamlin had posted some stuff. And I saw it. And I didn't post it for a long time. I didn't repost it for a long time. And the reason I didn't was I don't know the man. And it didn't have a blue check mark next to his name. I scrolled his piece. So what I did was, that's when I called my niece or my cousin, and I got, some background from her. And then I saw that Andrew Brandt and a couple others that I trust reposted. So it's in that case, yes, you want to get information out. Yes, you want to be informative, but more so than anything, you want to be right, and you want to be respectful. And you just want to report the facts. But people are hungry for information. Even now, people are hungry for information. They keep talking about at what point the University of Cincinnati Medical Center is going to either hand out a press release and or a press conference. And there are still news trucks and such, from what I understand, just gathered all around, because this has become bigger than just sports, gathered all around the medical center out front. And so you're sitting there and they're constantly throwing it to you, and you're constantly trying to give them something new. And all you're trying to do at that point in time, just like on 9/11, was describe the scene, the stories around the scene, the impact it has on the human equation, and then all along gather information that's factual, that you feel good about reporting. But there's nothing else you don't prepare for this. Nobody ever says, hey, if this happens, if a guy, has a heart attack on the field, this is what we're going to do. There's no playbook for that. Pardon the pun. There's no, you don't, it's the same thing as when, you had, a camera or two or reporters on the scene the day of the Waukesha Christmas parade tragedy. You don't prepare for that. You don't go into it thinking this is what's going to happen and how am I going to handle this? What you're doing is you're trying to make sure that you help first, if you can, Secondly, report what you saw. And thirdly, get the other accounts that are trustworthy, because people have a thirst for knowledge. People come together. Like it or not, you and I sat there last night and watched it. And we watched the coverage, because most of the time the game ends, SportsCenter comes on, I'm going to bed. Not last night. We were all sitting up wanting to know, is he okay? The Buffalo Bills stayed in that locker room. It was well after midnight in Cincinnati before they even left the locker room. They were sitting in that locker room wanting to hear. And when they finally got word that they had a breathing tube in him, he had been sedated, they had stabilized his vital signs, he was still listed in critical condition, they were going to run additional heart tests and brain tests, and that I don't want to say progressing, that would be an erroneous term, but that they were going to continue monitoring him, and they knew that he didn't pass. That's when they made the determination, okay, we can at least at this point knowledgeably, safely get on our flight and go home and try to be with our loved ones and our family who went through this trauma, because all your family members, your wives, your kids, everybody's watching that game. They're at home going, oh my God, what just happened? You know, you want to get home. You want to be home with your wife, your kids, your family, your friends, and then you want to get back into that locker room. You want to get back into the facility, and you want to be with the guys in that locker room, because you want to go through all of this, because nobody knows. You don't know, and I don't know what they're going through for the guys that have to now try to flip it and go back to doing their job. You know, like even the day after 9/11, a lot of places shut down, but the world continued to spin. And at some point, you try to put things back and say, okay, I know this happened, and I'm going to be cognizant of this, and I'm going to be heartfelt for this, and I'm going to be loving and caring and praying for this. But we got to do this. And now, how do you do that? And that's the reason last night, with all of that coverage, we sat glued to our television sets, and I'm still right here, right now, watching, live commentary on TV of, people out in front of University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Anyway, I'm going to do this. I'm woefully late for a break. I apologize. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers kept their playoff hopes alive with that big win over the Vikings on Sunday night. David Bakhtiari returned to playing left tackle a month after having his appendix removed. He played on 56 snaps against Minnesota. I asked Dave, how long was he told he could not do any lifting after the surgery?
Yeah, so I couldn't lift anything over 20 pounds for like 3 weeks. Other than that, it was a big question mark on, was kind of asking around. So it was a journey for everyone, including myself. Definitely sucked. Just was really, really weird. But I mean, I'm very fortunate that, you know, like really the last 10 days, it just kind of like took a huge turn for the better. Very fortunate to be where I am.
And after that win over the Dolphins, Bakhtiari was determined to get back on the field. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur.
He told me on the flight home after the Miami game that he said, I'm playing. So I said, okay, well, we'll see. And he was able to get through the week. And I thought he played a really good game.
Up next, the Packers will host the Lions. The kickoff scheduled now for 7:20 this Sunday night on NBC. Head coach Dan Campbell asked if he thinks the Lions are ready for primetime TV.
What do you think? I do too. So that's not for up for me to decide. You know, I know we'll put up a hell of a fight one way or another. Listen, I don't care. I just want to play, you know. So it's coming, and it'll be down the wire, and they'll be there, we'll be there, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be an exciting game.
That's Lions head coach Dan Campbell. In Green Bay, Clemens. Bill Michaels.
The best I've ever had. Connecticut is an amazing water softening system, and has been. I've had this thing in my home for over 20 years now, and I would not go with any other system. I just wouldn't. I've seen the rest. I've experienced their service, and which is all that led me to John Atley and the gang at the Water Doctors. Call them 262-549-7733 from anywhere in the state of Wisconsin. 262-549-7733, or just simply go to h2doctors.com, h2odoctors.com. And a reminder, they also donate to the Custom Canine Service Dog Academy to help veterans. You can donate directly, same thing, h2doctors.com, and find every drop counts. But they do a lot for our veterans and a lot for service dogs and such, and it's a terrific cause, but it's an even better company, and that's our good friends over there at the Water Doctors. Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, is going to be joining us coming up here after the top of the hour. We'll talk a lot about the NFL, but obviously what went on last night as well. Also, just heard back, but our buddy Mo Egger, he was at the game last night, and he is going to join us coming up here at the bottom of the next hour, and we'll get his account and his perspective on all of this. And we'll talk with him about what he witnessed there in person and what it was like in person last night at Paul Brown Stadium in the Queen City. So we'll get his thoughts as well. Also, just released moments ago, a statement from Damar Hamlin's family. And I want to give you this. It says, on our behalf of our family, we want to express the sincere gratitude for the love and support shown to Damar during these challenging times. We are deeply moved by the prayers, kind words, and donations from his fans around the country. We also at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center who have provided exceptional care to Damar. We feel blessed to be a part of the Buffalo Bills organization and to have their support. We also want to thank Coach Taylor and the Bengals for everything they have done. Your generosity and compassion means the world to us. Please keep Damar in your prayers. We will release updates as soon as we have them. Thank you, the Hamlin family. Coach Zach Taylor and a lot of the Bengals actually went to the hospital last night. And again, coming up at the bottom of the next hour, we're going to talk with Mo Egger of ESPN Radio in Cincinnati, and we'll get his perspective on all of this. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Hang in there. A lot more. The Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this. At the bottom of the hour, Mo Egger from ESPN Radio. We've had Mo on numerous times on the program, and Mo was at the game last night. And we'll get his perspective on all of this and what happened with DeMar Hamlin last evening and everything surrounding that emotion at Paul Brown Stadium last evening. We'll get all of that in the latest coming up here at the bottom of the hour. The Packers, they are efforting towards the postseason. They got a big game coming up this weekend, obviously, with the Lions. That game, after everything we pontificated about yesterday, about meaningful games and not wanting to have a team play when they know what their fate is, the NFL said, hell with it. The Packers draw ratings, and so we're going to put them in the primetime spot, and they're going to be the Sunday Night Football game. And to talk all about the rest of the NFL and ramifications, our buddy Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus at PFF_Brad and overthecap.com, joining us on the hotline. And Brad, first of all, I've been covering sports really since 1992. I've been playing it probably since the early 70s, mid 70s. I've never seen anything like that in my life last night. And I just, before we move forward, I think I would be remiss if I didn't at least ask your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I can't recall anything in a football game of that magnitude. We did have a similar situation with Christian Eriksen, the soccer player who I think had a similar thing happen, had to be defibrillated on the field. But whenever that happens, I think the coverage last night really covered it. But football goes away. That's the least of our concerns, and we're just hoping he's healthy and okay. But yeah, that was a surreal and scary moment last night, no question.
I got to ask you right now about the Green Bay Packers, because there are some people that say, hey, they beat Miami in Miami, but Tua seemed to have a concussion. They beat the Vikings, but they did it with special teams of defense, and their offense still isn't clicking on all cylinders. But then again, they've won what they've needed to win to get themselves into this point. So how scary a team is this if they get past the Lions and find themselves in the postseason?
I think they're scary to a degree, in part just because of how weak the NFC is. I don't think there's any team you look at and say, oh, they're bulletproof. They can't, on any given Sunday in the playoffs, if one team shows up and the other doesn't, they can still win without their best effort. That team doesn't exist. I mean, Minnesota is not scary at all. And then the Eagles are a little scary, but a bunch of injuries piling up now. Dallas is a good team, has a couple flaws here and there. But yeah, you mentioned the offense. They've been playing much better of late, top 10 in EPA per play since week 8. So, back half of the season, they have been better. My concern for Green Bay, honestly, is more on the defensive side of the football. I know they've had a couple great games recently, but when it comes playoff time and you're in third down situations, or let's say you have a small lead and teams are throwing on you, can you generate consistent pressure without Rashawn Gary? They've had a lot of guys step up, Justin Hollins, Kingsley Enagbare, a lot of young players. But I'm not sure if that is going to carry over to the postseason, and that's where I have the most concern for Green Bay.
The San Francisco 49ers with Brock Purdy, they first and foremost, they're a scoring team. I mean, when you don't think of Brock Purdy and that offense as being one of the top scoring teams, but they are. They're in top 10 there. Obviously, one of the top defenses. I guess how aware should we be of San Francisco? Because we talk a lot about the Eagles, and you had mentioned, here comes the injuries. We talk a lot about Dallas and Dak Prescott and all the weapons they have and what they can do. Nobody's really kind of mentioning San Francisco because they were in by the way for much of the season. Now they position themselves to be one of the top teams in the NFC. How dangerous is San Francisco?
As dangerous as anybody else, right? And I wish they had, if they had Jimmy Garoppolo, they'd be my favorite in the NFC. They still probably are. And I'm not a huge Garoppolo guy. It's more just, the experience and being there and playing a lot of these games. Even threw a touchdown pass and had multiple interceptions in his first 2 playoff games last year. So you look at that and say they still made the NFC Championship game. Brock Purdy takes some risks, throws down the field more. Of course, there's, the good and the bad that comes from that. But when you're that dominant in the trenches on both sides of the football, we are in a new era. We love debates like Penei Sewell versus Jamar Chase. And obviously, Jamar Chase goes into Cincinnati, makes the Super Bowl as a rookie. But when you are this dominant up front, some of those fun gadgets on the outside don't really matter as much when it's just you're this physical. And I think they can make the Super Bowl, even with Brock Purdy, as crazy as that may sound.
The AFC, we don't know. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. With Buffalo going home, they're not going to turn around and play this thing tonight. I don't know how they're going to do this, or maybe they call it a tie. Maybe they just leave seeding fall the way it is and get teams ready for this weekend. I don't know, but give me your thoughts regarding the AFC.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing is, we have no clue. It was a huge game in its own right. It obviously, so they're not going to reschedule Buffalo's home now, or at least not reschedule this week. But Cincinnati going into, a matchup with the Baltimore Ravens that in theory could determine the AFC North. And, however they sort it out, end of the day, by far the better conference. I think those top 3 teams, the Chiefs, Bills, and Bengals, are arguably the best teams in the NFL. If you look at both conferences across the board, and I still include Philly and Dallas and San Francisco in that conversation. We haven't seen the bye matter yet. Still early in this playoff structure, but with the one team having the bye, obviously last year Tennessee lost in the divisional round to the Cincinnati Bengals, who went on to make the Super Bowl. The LA Rams from wild card make a Super Bowl. So it's kind of changed the entire dynamic and made the playoff. Back in the day, if you weren't a 1 or 2 seed, you probably weren't making the big dance. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Again, that's obviously, we'll see how they sort of the logistics there. But end of the day, that AFC playoff picture with teams like the Chargers surging now as well, those games are going to be incredible on that side of the playoff picture.
Talking with Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus. You can find him at PFF_Brad and at overthecap.com. Justin Fields is 67 yards away from breaking Lamar Jackson's rushing record in a season in which the Bears have lost 9 in a row. I guess any record is a good record short of a negative record, but are the Chicago Bears doing the right thing by allowing this guy to run all over and risk himself when they believe they've got a franchise quarterback that just needs pieces around him in a season right now, specifically a start coming up this weekend that is somewhat meaningless?
That is his game. That's how he wins. They want to get him experience. If that's what he's going to do, a lot of it is scrambles, right? So you can't really take that out of your player's game. Yes, there are design runs. They've been doing a lot of more, intentionally moving the football with his legs. But this Sunday is interesting. I mean, he took a ton of shots in the Detroit game, both when he was dropping back and, of course, when he was running the football. A lot of big hits. They were working on his hamstring on the sideline. He looked banged up, looked kind of defeated at the end of it. And I think, I made the argument you got to let him get this experience, grow as a passer, grow as a player. But now this week, when you have no receivers around you, you have an awful offensive line, you have injuries everywhere. Like you said, the game's not only meaningless, it's meaningful that they lose and secure the number 2 overall pick. Do not let teams like Denver, which I guess would go to Seattle, but Denver or Arizona surpass you, because they both would jump Chicago if they had the same record based on strength of schedule. So, long answer short, that is Fields' game. You kind of have to let him do that to a degree. It would be cool to see him break the record, but I think there is a legitimate chance they sit him out in this game. Head coach Matt Eberflus's tone changed dramatically from Sunday to Monday, kind of saying, hey, we're going to talk with the front office. We're going to figure it out. Maybe it's in his best interest to sit on the sideline, and I wouldn't be shocked if that is the ultimate determination.
I do want to go stay on the NFC for a minute. You look at the bottom of this, New York, Dallas. You talked about a lot of the teams and a lot of the matchups. But Minnesota, I cannot get past the fact that when you look at the standings, that they are a division leader with a negative point differential. They're a negative 19. Everybody's been saying this is a paper tiger at best. Is that the belief in Pro Football Focus, that just hold up to what everybody, and the fact that in big moments, in big games, and anything that's out of the noon time slot, Kirk Cousins seems to fold under that particular pressure with only one postseason win to his name?
Yeah, so the underlying data, ignoring that, the Kirk Cousins primetime stuff, but yes, they're not as good as their record. You look at any way you want to break down data. There's Pythagorean win total. There's all sorts of different ways to look at it, and they're just not as good as their record. The one-score wins, going 11-0 in one-score games, it's something literally we may never see ever again. Like, that's how insane it is to have played in that many games that are one score and to win that many games that are one score. It is the single biggest sign of regression that we have in all of NFL football. So, and then, their defense is a bottom 5 defense in the NFL with injuries now. It arguably might be the worst defense in the NFL. They're 8 straight games now, allowing opponents to score 20-plus points, an average of 32 points per game allowed over their last 8 contests. That's just not going to win you a playoff game.
Before I let you go, I also wanted to ask you again, going back to Philadelphia. Now, we know, Jalen Hurts is a guy with the shoulder issue right now. It's his throwing shoulder. They're going to bring it. But how, with all the injuries they sustained, and when we talk about a 13-3 record and the top seed, and most likely you would assume they will get the win this weekend. But then again, you never know. But is Philadelphia, because a couple of weeks ago, everybody said Philadelphia was the team to beat, that they're the strongest, they should be the Super Bowl favorite going in. With a 127, point differential and such, does Philadelphia have the capability to kind of put it back together here in the next 2 weeks, get that bye, and then really be that strong team in the NFC? Or is this just too many injuries too late in the season that they can't overcome?
It is concerning. There are a bunch. Avonte Maddox, our slot corner, who's played well. Lane Johnson, maybe the best right tackle in the NFL, who will return after rehab. We have a doctor at PFF, Mario Palazzo, who puts out great stuff on Twitter, basically talking about how he will return and play, but it's going to be very painful. He's going to be on a lot of medications and trying to play through the core muscle injury, and it could impact his mobility and kind of what he does. So they can pull through. They can figure this out. You get Jalen Hurts healthy, maybe get him some reps this weekend so he's not, a full month off, including that first-round bye if they do get it, which they should. They're lucky the Giants have nothing to play for, so I think that they should benefit from that. But, I wouldn't call them the favorite. I think the AFC team is the favorite. Whatever AFC team makes it through, the Eagles, they're a good team. Their defense is concerning as well. Even beyond the injuries, you can always run on them. Jordan Davis' return does help against the run, but they're susceptible to certain spots. They've had injuries to the safeties now as well, with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson missing time. Like I said, no one is bulletproof in the NFC. I wouldn't be surprised if any of the NFC teams, maybe not the 7th seed or the New York Giants, I wouldn't be surprised if the top 5 seeds make it all the way through.
Always a pleasure, Brad. I appreciate it, and we'll talk once the postseason gets underway too. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Appreciate it, bud. Talk to you soon. There you go. That is Brad Spielberger, and he is joining us from New York, where he is based, and part of Pro Football Focus's coverage at PFF_Brad, and you can find him at overthecap.com as well. He does a lot with capology, so to speak. But Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, joining us for a couple of minutes. Reminder coming up at the bottom of the hour, Mo Egger is from ESPN Radio down in Cincinnati. He's going to give us a buzz, and we'll talk with Mo about what his thoughts were coming out of last night, being at Paul Brown Stadium, covering this story from the pregame tailgate celebration. They had a charitable event going on over at Longworth Hall, which is just down the street from Paul Brown Stadium, that they kind of set aside for the Bills fans and Bills Mafia when Joe Burrow and company did some things for the Bills charities and back and forth. And then obviously all of this happens last night. And so he's going to give us a perspective for all of it. From what went on yesterday and through his eyes, so to speak. We'll get into that coming up here shortly. 877-867-1670. If you want to join us, please feel free to go ahead and do so. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Social House, Haus. It's over there on Lisbon Road in Menominee Falls. And the beautiful expansion's done. We've talked about that. They had a really successful New Year's. And now it's on to 2023. And they have golf leagues that are going to be forming coming up in the spring. They have many different things that go on over there, including music, in-house music and such. And if you're just looking for good food, by the way, the home of the cheese curd burger, the original cheese curd burger, that's our friends over there at the Social House. And don't forget, you go in there on Sundays, you get yourself a mixed beverage, wink, wink, and free pancakes are sure to follow on Sunday morning. It's great place to go. Really, the really kind people. We're so blessed that we work with so many great people, not only as friends, but as sponsors on this program. So I encourage you, head on over to the Social House, Haus as well. Stay tuned. A whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's coming up next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Any season is grilling season, and you can get your favorite cuts delivered right to your doorstep. Go to ScholzieFamilyBeef.com. That's ScholzieFamilyBeef.com.
Even when the weather outside is frightful, your energy bill could be much more delightful. Hi, I'm Gina Della from Pella. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. You'll help kick the January blues when you choose to book by the 31st for 0% interest up to 2029. You heard that right. No interest up to the year 2029 if you book by January 31st. Pella's premium wood windows and patio doors feature distinguished craftsmanship and nearly endless possibilities, with maximum design flexibility in dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Hurry. To get the 0% interest up to 2029, you have to book by January 31st. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. Hey, our friends at Potawatomi Hotel Casino. It is 2023. They had a terrific New Year's Eve party. And it's a new season. Bingo is back. Slots are good. Performances in the Northern Lights Theater are going to be flowing again this year. And if you're looking for a great place to go, a night out, an evening in Milwaukee, that's Potawatomi Hotel Casino. Go to paysbig.com. That is paysbig.com for all the information, make reservations, see everything that they have to offer, including the fantastic restaurant inside Potawatomi Hotel Casino. I wanted to take a minute. And coming up at the bottom of the hour, Mo Egger of ESPN Radio in Cincinnati is going to be joining us. We'll talk with Mo about what his thoughts, feelings, and were last night and what he witnessed himself. But one of the things I thought this was really interesting. Andrew Brandt put this out. He said, we've learned that Hamlin was in cardiac arrest in the field. Medical personnel were able to restart his heart. And obviously, we hope, pray, I think we all mean him. And we say our prayers with this young man in Buffalo Bills. And obviously, T. Higgins, who was interactive in that hit last night. He was very distraught leaving with his mother last night leaving the stadium.
But I wanted to read what Andrew Brandt finished up with. He said, "We hope and pray so much appreciation for a lot of these frontline responders as well." He said, "In my experience, many of them are working overtime, or even they volunteer in their roles to be on site at many of these stadiums." It's true. We kind of take it for granted. We always see the medical staff standing there and, a gurney that's standing there just in case. They get a chance to hang out on the field, maybe grab a picture, whatever. But, you got to give it up to the first responders, man. They got out there quickly yesterday. And again, we're going to hear from Mo Egger coming up, but they got out there quickly. The assessment was done immediately. CPR was started immediately. And they, what I can only assume, okay, I'm not going to state for a fact, but I can only assume the jersey was either cut or removed. The pads were cut or removed. And because they had to use the defibrillation paddles to, send the shock to, restart the heart. And then once they got the heart going again, the oxygen flowing, they got him loaded up and on the way once they started getting vital signs again. So a lot of credit to those first responders, the trainers, the doctors and such that were on the field yesterday as well, and that are in all stadiums. It's not just the NFL. I mean, you see it, you see it in the Fiserv Forum, you see it at Miller Park, you see it all over, out at Camp Randall, obviously in the Kohl Center, they're all over. And so you always are aware that they're there. You hope they are never needed. But it's the work they did was fantastic, and they need to be commended for that. 877-867-1670. By the way, this is something that's a little interesting regarding the game coming up on Sunday night. Did you know that the Detroit Lions, every game they have played this season was a noon game? It's the first time they're going to play a game outside of the noon timeline all season long, and they're going to finish their season as the highlighted game to end the season, to end the regular season with the Green Bay Packers on Sunday night. Ben, did you know that at all?
That cannot be true. Really?
That's what it was. That's what was stated.
Huh.
Yeah. That's
it was. I mean, it was odd, but not shocking to see that news yesterday.
Yeah.
That they put the Packers on Sunday, even given the Seattle context.
Yeah, I thought it was a little weird. But because we had talked about that they didn't want a game that may or may not, a team playing that may or may not have ramifications in that game to be on the field. They want to make sure that whatever team is playing has something to play for, and that both teams are going at it 100% competitively, and that there's this drama to the game that is winning you're in or not, or seeding or what have you. But the Packers, and this is just what I was told, and I've always known this, the Packers are such a huge draw. Rodgers is such a huge follow, and anything the Packers do are a huge story. And the fact that they have now won 4 straight, the fact that they have put themselves in position to get into the postseason, is sort of amazing in many eyes. You got the Lions who won last week, the Packers who have now won 4 straight. It is a tremendous matchup. So now you just kind of wait and see and as to whether or not Packers get in. But that San Francisco or the Seattle game could have ramifications on the Detroit Lions as well. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, if we all watched last night as Damar Hamlin lay motionless on the turf at Paul Brown Stadium and was resuscitated and then taken to a hospital, to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Mo Ager from ESPN Radio was there from the pregame and all the anticipation leading up to that game, to the Bengals' first score, and then to what ensued after that and the surreal moments that have taken place since. We're going to hear his perspective when we come back. Hang in there. A lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
This January, hit the road to riches at Potawatomi Casino Hotel. Play each day for thousands in free play and entries into the big $200,000 grand finale. The more you play, the closer you get to big money. So hit the road, Jack, or Jill, or whatever your name might be. The road to riches, only at Potawatomi. For more details, visit paysbig.com/road2riches. Must be 21 years old to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Bill Michaels Show. Continuing on. And as we know, last night, a very surreal night was down in Cincinnati at Paul Brown Stadium as to what the world, the sports world, witnessed with Hamlin collapsing on the turf. I was following this guy, our next guest, Mo Egger from ESPN Radio in Cincinnati. Mo, first of all, thanks for joining us. But I was following you last night. I saw the pregame and everything going on at the Holy Grail last night, and I was excited because I know my buddy Jimmy Moring owns it, and I'm just so happy for him. And it was such an incredible atmosphere, and I was so looking forward to the game last night. And, man, just give me your perspective from the hype, the build-up to what we witnessed to where we are and all the emotions you went through being there last night.
Yeah, what I keep thinking about, the vibe before the game. I mean, this was, first of all, the temperatures were in the low 60s on January 2nd. So you had great weather, a huge game, right? The sort of regular season game that for years we were hoping the Bengals could play in. You have this awesome Monday Night Football matchup with these two star quarterbacks, two teams coming in red hot, and a game with all sorts of playoff implications, but really didn't have the playoff consequences, right? Usually before a playoff game, there's a degree of anxiety. They lose, the season's over. Then what happens? With this game, it was, you know what? There's a lot of upside if they win, and if they don't, we'll just come back next week and they'll play the Baltimore Ravens for the AFC North title. It was, we did our show from the Holy Grail, which for folks who don't know is maybe 5 blocks away from Paycor Stadium. And we did our show from 3 to 5, and I hung out for a bit afterward, and I took in the scene. Lots of Bills fans, lots of Bengals fans, and it was just festive. It was awesome. I had the same vibe I did when the All-Star game was here in 2015. To go from that to standing in a full but silent stadium, and then, a little while later walking out of that stadium where confusion reigned, sadness reigned, questions certainly reigned. I'll never forget that. And I keep thinking about just how things flipped instantaneously from where things were yesterday afternoon and early evening here to what we all tried to go to bed thinking about last night. And that was obviously a very young man in the prime of his life fighting for his life. And hopefully there's an outcome that we're all looking for. But yeah, just how things turned so suddenly is something that I'll never forget.
There was, I had a friend of mine, and it's amazing because I got so many friends that were actually at the game last night that was down at Longworth Hall. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Longworth Hall in the parking area down there was set up basically for Bills Mafia. And they were doing through some charity event or something to that effect or something like that. So there was, while the Bills fans were there to see the Bills win, there was a lot of camaraderie between fans for some of the things charitable wise that they have done for one another.
Yeah, first of all, we're talking about two franchises who have put their fans through a lot, right? So I think there's the commonality of, God, if it's not the Bengals, then we hope it's the Bills, because, that is a franchise that's never won a Super Bowl. The Bengals have never won a Super Bowl. Both, drag their fans through long periods of not making the postseason. Then you add to it, the game a few years ago where Andy Dalton beats the Baltimore Ravens. It lifts the Bills into the postseason for the first time in forever. And Bills fans flooded Andy Dalton's charity with donations, which was really, really cool. And so there's been this sort of commonality between the two fan bases, and there were a lot of Bills fans in and around the area last night, but everybody was getting along. Everybody was having a lot of fun. There was a sense of, we might play you guys again in a few weeks, right? And that'll be awesome. And there was a sense of, well, if it's not us, we hope it's you, and not Kansas City, and not the Chargers, and not the Ravens. So there was all of that. And then I think the very shared experience of, just from a human perspective, did we just witness something tragic? What did we witness? What's the outcome going to be? And what's next? And I'm not being very good at articulating what that was like last night, but yeah, it went from awesome, and I mean an awesome pregame vibe, an early game vibe, to something that it reminded me, quite frankly, of when my dad passed away. That's the only thing that I could equate it to, and I don't like equating things to that.
Talking with Mo Wager of ESPN Radio in Cincinnati. He was in the stands last night at Paul Brown Stadium. I saw your perspective. If that was your picture, I was watching on, like I said, on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram and such. Mm-hmm. So you were just in the stands. You were down there on the sideline almost, but you were what, 10, 15 rows back?
Yeah. So where we sit on the visitor sideline, because it's the sun side. It's the side that gets the most amount of sun, and you want that in Cincinnati in November and December. January, obviously not a factor for a primetime game, but we sit right behind the visitors' bench, 5 rows up. And I took a buddy of mine to the game last night. The guy that I usually attend with is on his honeymoon. So I took a friend of mine and I said, the cool thing about where I sit is sometimes you can get caught up in what's happening on the sideline. So, for instance, when Ben Roethlisberger is yelling at Mike Tomlin, I watch that. Or when Adam Gase ignores his team on defense when he was coaching the Jets, you kind of get caught up in watching a lot of that stuff, and it's pretty cool. So last night, the instant cue that we had that something was dramatic miss was watching Bills players walk away from what was happening to Damar Hamlin and walking away from the little huddle they had. And you could see those players were extremely emotional. There were guys crying. There were players consoling each other. And I mean, you've seen a lot of football injuries. Mm-hmm. There's always some dimension of that. If there's, a severe lower body injury, or if there's head trauma, if there's a neck injury, right? I mean, you always, guys take a knee, guys console each other. You could tell this was different. And having no real idea what was going on because of the number of players that just surrounded the medical personnel as they worked on Damar Hamlin, we didn't have any specifics. But then folks who are watching on TV start texting you, here's what's going on. They're administering CPR. Here's what the announcers are saying. The ambulance comes charging out onto the field. It was abundantly clear from the get-go that, number one, something tragic was unfolding in front of us, and number two, the football portion of the evening had concluded. They were not going to resume that game. But watching the Bills players, watching Sean McDermott, watching everybody connected to that team console each other, show a grave amount of concern, and visibly, I think, try to process not only what was happening, but what might have to happen next. Those were very, very striking images last night.
Now, there last that don't know, Damar Hamlin was taken to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. It really is one of the top trauma centers around. And so it's great to have that facility in that city and for him to be so close to that. Now, I don't know if you've been there or haven't been there. I would assume that WLW and ESPN Radio both have boots on the ground there. What has that been like? Because you go from a sports reporter to almost a news gatherer almost immediately.
Yeah, it's put a lot of broadcasters to the test, and most that I've seen have passed with flying colors. But first of all, you're right about the University of Cincinnati, a trauma center. If you are unfortunate enough to go through something life-threatening, aren't many better places to be taken to than the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. I thought the really touching thing last night was seeing the images of Bengals and Bills fans who just went there. And in moments like that, there's often just helplessness, right? Like, you want to do something, but what can you do? And so a lot of folks just held vigil outside the UC Medical Center. Zach Taylor went there last night, the coach of the Bengals, Stephon Diggs, who's apparently very close to Damar Hamlin, talked his way into the hospital. I think the real, I hate to say cool part about this, but something cool that has happened is Damar Hamlin started a toy drive when he was at Pitt, when he was a college football player. Mm-hmm. And, he raised a few $1,000s and he bought toys for underprivileged kids. That GoFundMe was still active. And as you and I talk right now, I think they've raised close to $4 million that people have just thrown money at it. That's the good part of all this. I hate that it takes tragedy to make people do nice things, but I think there was a sense of helplessness last night. Some people channeled that by going to the hospital. Some people channeled that by donating to a toy drive, which is going to benefit a lot of people. And I think that's cool. I pray that Damar Hamlin is with us to figure out where that money ultimately is going to go, I guess.
Do we have any word as to when or if the University of Cincinnati will have any kind of a presser, or is this strictly going to be details released through the Buffalo Bills or Damar Hamlin's family?
Well, Damar Hamlin's family, I think about 45 minutes ago, released a statement, and it didn't really provide much in the way of information. It was just one expressing gratitude to the folks who had worked on Damar, to the people at the hospital, to the folks at Paycor Stadium, to the Bengals, to the people in the Bills organization. In terms of a specific medical update, as you and I talk right now, late last night, the hospital said they were going to make no statements and didn't say when they would. So we're all sort of hanging in limbo here. I will choose not to speculate as to what us hanging in limbo is going to mean. But as of right now, there has been no announcement of any kind of planned statement, and folks can do with that information what they choose.
Mo, it's always good to talk to you. I wish we were talking under better circumstances, but a hell of a job. Thanks for joining us on a moment's notice, but a great perspective from you through your eyes, man. I appreciate it.
You got it, Bill. Thanks.
There you go. Mo Egger of ESPN Radio. He was there, and I wanted to have him on because he, as I had mentioned, there's the place called the Holy Grail, which is, as he said, like 3-4 blocks from Paul Brown Stadium. I mean, literally out of the front door, you can see Paul Brown Stadium. It's right there. That's where they do the pregame show on the Bengals radio network. And then he has season tickets. And so he's actually in the stands, but his perspective was from the Bills sideline. And he 15, 20 rows up, maybe. I don't know. You can follow him at Mo Egger over on Twitter, and you can go back through his timeline and see the picture at the beginning of the game. He said, what a great atmosphere, great setting for tonight's matchup, or something to that effect. But and then from that, and I see him and a few others that had posted some video walking out of Paul Brown Stadium last night, and with literally hundreds of fans around them, not a word is being spoken. There's nothing. It's just people just as if they're just in shock as to what they just witnessed. So hopefully, you continue to pray Damar Hamlin comes through and just gains his life back. How he then lives it after that, if he's able to ever come back and play football again, or just live his life and achieve whatever goals he sets, you certainly hope that this young man is going to be okay. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Even when the weather outside is frightful, your energy bill could be much more delightful. Hi, I'm Gina Della from Pella. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. You'll help kick the January blues when you choose to book by the 31st for 0% interest up to 2029. You heard that right. No interest up to the year 2029 if you book by January 31st. Pella's premium wood windows and patio doors feature distinguished craftsmanship and nearly endless possibilities, with maximum design flexibility in dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Hurry! To get the 0% interest up to 2029, you have to book by January 31st. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers getting ready for their final game of the regular season against the Detroit Lions. If Green Bay wins, they'll secure a wild card spot in the playoffs. The Packers' 38-year-old Mason Crosby talked about that 56-yarder he bounced off the crossbar just before the half Sunday against Minnesota. Was the backspin like a shooter's roll in basketball?
I wish I could say that. I wish, I just, I made sure to have a little bit of, a soft landing. So if it hit that, but I think it was just one of those where it was like kind of the max distance, and fortunately it came down in the right way on the post. So it just landed, I guess, square. With the momentum going forward, and we're able to get it to go the right direction.
The Lions come into the game this week with a record of 8-8 and the first chance since 2011 to reach the playoffs. Lions quarterback Jared Goff.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Not every team, players, young guys get the opportunity to play in games like this. I mean, there's a bunch of guys here who have, for the first half of their career, have not had that chance of playing a game in January that means something. And, we're going to get that chance next week. And whether it gets us in or not, it's not up to us. But, going in there, trying to win and see where everything falls at the end.
The game scheduled for this Sunday night, 7:20 on NBC. Matt LaFleur asked if he would have preferred an earlier start time.
It really doesn't matter, but I do think the environment in Lambeau Field at nighttime is unlike any other place. So hopefully our fans show up and show out for us and support us, and don't sell your tickets to the Lions fans, please.
As Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
Great place up north in the Muscano Island is Four Seasons Island Resort. And not only is it a fun place to just get away, but it's also sitting on the island. And when they have snow and the trails are open, you can bring your sled with you. And you can enjoy your time there. You can get out on the trails. You can head into the UP. You can go skiing at their sister resort. You can sit in the pool and watch the snow fall. You can sit in the sauna, the hot tub. You can go downstairs to the Boundary Water Sports Bar and Grill and get yourself a bite to eat, watch a game, have a beverage, karaoke, listen to some music. I mean, I can go on and on. It's a terrific place. They have some different events going on. Find it, the Four Seasons Island Resort, over on Facebook as well. But get a hold of our girl Barb, because for people that listen to this program, BARB, Barb at thefourseasonswisconsin.com. but because you listen to this program, you let them know. Bill Michaels 15. Bill Michaels 15. You automatically get 15% off. Tell them we sent you. 715-324-5800. 715-324-5800. And get a hold of Barb over at the Four Seasons Island Resort and just say, I heard it on Bill Michaels' show. You get 15% off your stay. Good stuff from the Four Seasons Island Resort. Let's get to coming up after the top of the hour, by the way, Andy Herman, the Pack a Day podcast. We're gonna hear from him. But want to get back to the phone calls. Let's go to Tyler from Buffalo. Tyler, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Doing good, Bill. How's it going?
I'm doing okay. Doing okay today.
That's good. Obviously, I just want to say, Buffalo's taken a couple of haymakers within the past couple of weeks. We had the big blizzard that killed over 40 people.
Yeah.
And then now we got this to deal with. So it's been a rough couple of weeks down here. So obviously we always talk about football being a violent game. I feel like, not that it gets thrown around too loosely, but it really puts it into perspective when you see something like that, what happened last night. If that doesn't shake you to your core, then I don't know what will.
Right. Yep.
And then obviously I wanted to say something about the Packers here real quick. So
Sure.
obviously I just wanted to get that out there first. Now, do you think having Devontae Wyatt out there is really shored up this run defense that much to where before it was like a sieve and teams could run for 9-10 yards a game or 9 or 10 yards a rush, and ever since like the second quarter against the Dolphins these past two games it's been completely different. The run fits have been better. People are filling their gaps. Like is it the scheme, is it the player, like is it just a 2-game sample size?
I think it's a little bit of, and you know, I understand where you're going with Devontae Wyatt, but when you look at Jerron Reed has played better. I mean, you can pretty much look at the front has played better. The fact that Quay Walker has also played better against the run. Not great, but played better. TJ Slayton has also been up front, and between him and Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt, that's been really, really good. And I don't know how to explain it. What I would like to say is that it's a different level of intensity that they're bringing right now. It's a different level of energy that they're bringing right now. There's a legitimate hope that they have right now, and I think that's part of the reason. It's been the focus to attention to detail. And as Mike Clemens had caught after the game, that talking to some of the guys in the defensive backfield, one of the guys said to Mike, hey, we're on the same page now. Where maybe before guys were freelancing and things you're trying to cover for the guy next to you, you're trying to kind of do too much. Now everybody's kind of bought in, everybody's doing their job. And it's just when you do your job and you win your battle, you can win as a group. And that seems to be also what it is they're doing right now. So I appreciate the phone call. And you're right, man. Best of luck to everybody up in Buffalo. They've not only did they have, and everybody across the country had the deep freeze, but they had back-to-back blizzards, man, of just epic proportions. And then, obviously, if you are, part of the Bills fans, you watched and witnessed last night, and it's been it's been tough. I completely agree with you. 877-867-1670. Yeah, he brings up a really good point. I mean, the run game has the defense has been better, and Devontae Wyatt has shown flashes, and more so than anything, I think TJ Slayton has shown really good flashes as well. But Devondre Campbell has stepped up. Quay Walker has stepped up. TJ Slayton had a tackle for loss, had a couple of balls batted down, had 4 tackles up front. I mean, that's saying something, man. Kenny Clark, same thing, 4 tackles up front. Jerron Reed had a couple of pressures as well, and 2 quarterback hurries. It's up front was winning battles against that offensive line of the Minnesota Vikings. Andy Herman of the Pack a Day podcast is going to join us when we come back. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Quick Trip. Stopped in today real quick, went up this morning, pardon the pun, I went up this morning and grabbed a couple of things. Needed some eggs, and I was out of milk. So I ran up real fast this morning, trying to eat a little bit healthier. and ran in there, used my quick rewards card. They said, congratulations, you have so many visits. You got a free sandwich if you want it. I didn't take it today, but it's nice to know it's there. It's awesome, man. It's awesome. And they're always, greeting you, and you can't wait to see you again. Come on back. That's our friends at Quick Trip. Great people, great place. And it's great the fact that it's based right here in Wisconsin. Stay tuned. We got more coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's win and in for the Packers this Sunday as they face the Lions at Lambeau Field. The NFL set the game for Sunday Night Football with kick coming at 7:20. Pretty simple for Green Bay. If they beat Detroit, they're going to make the playoffs for a fourth straight year. If they lose, they're eliminated. Coach Matt LaFleur says that's not really any different than the last month.
I think we've kind of been in that playoff mindset, when we were sitting there 4-8, knowing that every game was, I actually think it was probably before that, to be honest with you, just knowing how critical every game was. And to get to this point and for it to play out the way it has is exciting. It's exciting, obviously, for our team, for our fans. But again, we got a huge challenge in front of us.
By the time the game is played, unclear if the Lions will have something to play for or not. If Seattle wins earlier in the day, the Lions eliminated from playoff contention. If Seattle loses, then a Detroit win over Green Bay gets the Lions in. Again, kick on Sunday is at 7:20. Turning to the Badgers, new coach Luke Fickell continuing to recruit, put together his coaching staff. So far, no hires have been officially announced, but it's been widely reported that Phil Longo going to serve as offensive coordinator. Mike Tressel going to be the defensive coordinator.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the 14th ranked Badgers back in action tonight as Minnesota comes to town. Wisconsin looking for its first 3-0 start to Big Ten play since the 2014-15 season when they won the conference. Tip is at 8, and the Bucs going to host Washington again tonight at Fiserv Forum. Tip is at 7. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
Welcome back to the program. Glad to have you, the Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. First couple of hours, obviously, dedicated to Damar Hamlin, the Bills' safety, who is in critical condition after suffering the cardiac arrest last night on the field at Paul Brown Stadium. A lot of discussion regarding that, to the Green Bay Packers and moving forward. But I do want to talk some Packers football because obviously the win this past Sunday was a big one over the Minnesota Vikings. Defense playing well. Special teams had their one gaffe, but obviously Keyshawn Nixon brought everybody back to their feet after the 105-yard touchdown return. And then you got, obviously, the Sunday Night Football game that's now on the docket. Andy Herman of the Pack a Day podcast, at Andy Herman NFL over on Twitter. You can find his stuff there, now joining us on the hotline. Andy, how you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Obviously, this is a sport that we all love and enjoy, but, something like that happens like last night, and it's just a really harsh reminder that this is a violent sport. And, it's always tough to kind of see that and go through that. And obviously this is a little bit unprecedented in the way that went down, but just hoping and praying for Damar Hamlin, and hopefully that we get some more good news sooner rather than later.
So, that's, I completely agree with you. I'm trying to, figure out a way that's, if not easier, at least more comfortable to maneuver from life to football. But there is football on the horizon. The Packers are back at it tomorrow, and now they got to get ready for their postseason, if indeed they get the win on Sunday. So, first of all, what has been the most obvious positive out of this 4-game run for the Green Bay Packers in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I would start with the defense, right? And I know, you kind of asked about the 4-game run, but, I look to about the second half of that Dolphins game, or I guess you could go the play before halftime with the forced fumble by Jerron Reed as well. But there was a stretch from the second half of that Dolphins game up until really garbage time against Minnesota, where they scored the 2 touchdowns that had no relevance whatsoever. But in those 12 drives, Green Bay's defense went interception, 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 3 and out. Goal line stand that resulted in a field goal, but was of no fault of the defense. That was the punt block that ended up on the 1-yard line. It was actually a huge win for the defense. 3 and out, pick 6, missed field goal, interception, missed field goal, forced fumble / recovery, interception. You're talking about 7 turnovers in 12 drives, including a pick 6. And really throughout that time, if you look at the defense and special teams combined, they outscored Minnesota and Miami during that time frame 14-3. Just the defense and the special teams outscored the opposing offenses 14-3. And you talk about playing complementary football. That's a really good way to do it, is when your defense and special teams can outscore the opposing team's offenses. I know that that Tua had the concussion in the second half, and that's certainly relevant. And I know Minnesota certainly didn't play their best game, but you're not talking about like the Texans and the Bears here. This is teams that include Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, etc. And what Green Bay's defense did for about that game and a quarter during those that time frame was absolutely incredible, and they really deserve a ton of credit for really turning it around after a first half against Miami that we thought maybe that was going to be the end right then and there.
So let's talk about this team moving forward, because the defense has certainly played better. Let's get into that first and foremost. We were just talking about the run defense. And Dean Lowry going down, you weren't really sure how big of an issue that was going to be, but you talk about a guy that getting an opportunity. TJ Slayton getting a couple of passes batted down, providing a force, and then Devontae Wyatt, who has started to show some real flashes I've been relatively impressed with. Give me your thoughts there first and foremost.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Slayton first, because I think when Lowry goes down, the immediate jump that everyone makes is, okay, Devontae Wyatt's going to get more playing time, but it certainly meant a lot more playing time for TJ Slayton, and his game was so impressive in this one. He was integral in the goal line stand at the beginning of the game. He's got a tip pass that results in an interception. He bats down another pass. He's involved in pressures on one of the other turnovers. Like, he just was really, really impressive in this game and super disruptive. And his ability to play the nose tackle too allows Kenny Clark to be able to move around and play some 3 technique and do some other things, where if they didn't have Slayton, I think Clark's going to have to do a lot more of the dirty work. And of course, Clark's able to come up with a huge, strip fumble and recovery as well. So I think Slayton's presence in this game was massive. And then I go to Devontae Wyatt, and I think, when he's playing some of those 8-9 play stints in previous games, it's a little bit easier to kind of have some of those flash plays. You're fresh, you're coming in with, non-tired legs and those sort of things. But I was more impressed with Devontae Wyatt in this game, even though I didn't think he had the splash plays. I didn't think he had, anything that kind of jumped off the tape. But even in those 8-9 play stints in other games, he would struggle at times holding up at the point of attack, doing kind of some of the dirty work. I thought he really held up well in this game overall, did a lot of the dirty work, held up against double teams better than he had previously this season. And that's some of the things that you want to start seeing is, playing defensive line, playing any, trench position in football isn't always going to be the sexiest thing. And you've got to do a lot of the dirty work. And I thought Devontae Wyatt did a lot better in that regard in this game.
Let's talk about the middle with Kenny Clark, because Kenny Clark really doesn't get much time to kind of take a play or two off. As the season has gone on, you kind of looked for a diminishment in his play because he's getting so much playing time. And I really haven't seen that. Have you?
No, there was a stretch in the middle of the year where I thought Kenny definitely struggled, and that kind of coincided with Rashawn Gary going down. Clark started seeing a lot more double teams, and I think just kind of fighting through some of that. And I don't know, maybe he was battling some sort of injury, but it just wasn't the Kenny Clark that we were used to seeing. But over the last month, I think by the time about December hit, we saw the same Kenny Clark that we're used to seeing. He's such a frustrating player for opposing offensive linemen. He can beat you in so many different ways. He's got a pressure early in this game where it's just literally teaching tape stuff, where he gets to the outside of the offensive lineman, uses his hands so incredibly well, rips through, turns the corner, and gets a pressure on the quarterback. So, Kenny's been such an amazing player for Green Bay for such a long time. And this last stretch of games from about December on has been no different.
Let's talk about the secondary because I know it was kind of Mike Clemens had told me that, one of the guys kind of said to him, hey, we're all on the same page now. There might have been some freelancing, might have been guys that didn't believe in what was going on defensively speaking. It certainly looks like there's a different energy, there's a different tenacity, there's many different things going on, but more so the effectiveness of the secondary, the effectiveness of coverage over the middle that has really kind of solidified this team. And it looks like they're playing a little bit quicker with a little more tenacity. And I just want to say that guys are getting there a step sooner and making plays as opposed to arm tackles and letting ball carriers and such and receivers get past them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think when we all looked at this defense on paper to start the season, we saw all these individual players that we were all really excited about, from Rashawn Gary to Clark to Campbell coming off an all-pro season, Jair Alexander, Amos, etc. You look at it on paper and you're like, yeah, this is going to be a top 5, top 10 defense. And that's why, so many people were so excited about it. But I think some of the things that get so just, under the radar and not talked about as much as defense is it. 11 guys on the field, not just doing 11 of their own jobs and whatever. You have to see these guys playing together. And like you said, believing in themselves, believing in the system. We didn't see that for a vast majority of the season. And I don't know what Jerry Gray said at halftime of the Dolphins game, but whatever he said, I wish he would have said it in the halftime of the Vikings game in week 1. But man, this defense looks totally different. They are playing on the same page. And a lot of credit to Darnell Savage and Rudy Ford. Darnell Savage gets benched. And this is a guy who was a first-round draft pick, day one starter, has played every game, gets this, fifth-year option picked up, fully guaranteed, huge deal. And, for the first time, he really gets benched. He sees that adversity that can go in 2 totally different ways. We have seen a completely different Darnell Savage over the last game and a half since he came in the second half against Miami. And then Rudy Ford gets completely benched in that Dolphins game. They bring Savage back, even Ennis Gaines, Tariq Carpenter on the field instead of Rudy Ford. He comes back, plays a nice game, has the big interception as well. So, when you get benched, that can go in 2 totally different ways. Some guys will shut down and not respond to it. Really impressed with the way that Savage and Ford have responded to those individual decisions.
Let's go back to talking about Darnell Savage for a minute, because early this season, he just didn't look right. There was just something there. It's like, how is he getting beat this bad? And now he comes back and gives guys the nod and says, I'm here, I'm good. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if there was other issues, but it certainly seemed like he gained confidence. Coaches run you back.
Yeah, he did, and he made the most of it. Clearly the pick 6 this week was the big play, but even going back to that second half against the Dolphins, Savage was a player that, I think, they basically said he was kind of looking for the big plays. He wasn't doing his 111th. He wasn't doing his job on the play. I don't think he was, really being the physical player that we saw when he was a first-round pick, and I think that's changed, and I think he has played a bit more physical. Now, you go back and look at the all-22 on this day, for the Vikings game. He allows some completion, should have allowed the big one down the field to TJ Hawkinson that bounced off Hawkinson's hand. So it wasn't perfect this week. And, I'm not necessarily looking for that, but I'm looking for a different intensity and a different way that he's going about playing the game. And I've absolutely seen that against Miami and Minnesota. And I think that's a really encouraging sign for a player that is, clearly going to be on this roster next year. He's a fully guaranteed player based on them picking up the 5th-year deal. Adrian Amos, I'm guessing, probably will not be back based on his contract. And then you've got a lot of unknowns on that safety position. Rudy Ford's a free agent. So if Darnell Savage can start playing better to the point that he was when I think he played his best football in 2020, that would be a huge step for this Packers team, not only this season, but at a safety position that looks kind of rather thin moving forward.
Talking with Andy Herman of the Pack a Day podcast. You can find his stuff at Andy Herman NFL over on Twitter. I want to go to the offensive side of the football. Now, to me, if there's an Achilles heel right now with this team, that's probably it. While they're running the ball, probably more so than they are throwing the ball, I think they're running the ball in part because they have to. The passing game has not looked in sync. I know Aaron Rodgers said part of it's his fault. He hasn't looked as sharp as he normally would expect himself to play and such. But what do you see when you look at this offense? Because sometimes I think it's just really poor creativity in the play calling. Why you're pulling Aaron Jones off the field when he's just gashing guys when you get down to the red zone, I have no idea. Sometimes this running out of shotgun and eliminating all of play action, because Aaron Rodgers is so good at play action and play action fake. It's mind numbing, and they don't do that when they run it out of shotgun. I don't know why the play calling has become so predictable.
It's interesting, and here we are kind of in week 18, and I still feel like this offense hasn't really found its rhythm or its identity. You get Aaron Jones in spurts, and it just looks, almost unstoppable at times the way that he's running. And then, like you said, there will be literal games where it seems like Aaron Jones is completely forgotten about, and certainly stretches of the game that goes that way as well. It seems like they kind of want to do the same thing with Jones and Dillon, and they're two very talented backs, but they're two totally different backs, and they kind of need their own way of, kind of going about things and kind of their own different kind of plays called for them. I don't think you can necessarily just call the same things and expect the same level of success out of Dillon. He does things differently than than Jones does. And then, I think from an offense, from a receiver standpoint, I think Christian Watson's completely opened up this offense and changed things, but we saw in this game too, where Watson and Rodgers were just a click off on a couple different plays, a missed throw kind of over the middle, a throw where Rodgers leads him about 15 yards out of bounds. I think the one play, the earlier one, I think there probably was, some illegal contact down the field that probably should have been called, but just not always 1,000,000% on the same page. I think that's something that needs to get worked on. And like you said, it just, at times it kind of lacks creativity. There's guys just kind of going out and running some pretty bland routes. We're not seeing a lot of, double moves or plays off of plays. I think it needs to get different. I think this team offensively has had a little bit of, multi-personality almost disorder at times, where you're looking at two, it feels like there's a LaFleur version of it. There feels like there's a Rodgers version of it. And it just doesn't seem totally cohesive all the time. And I think red zone offense is a huge part of that as well. So it's not there yet. And they've now got, one more week to try to clean it up and fix it, hopefully get it going this week. And then, going into the playoffs, hopefully as well.
With everything that this team has been through over the last few weeks, give me your thoughts if they win, because I think this Detroit game is probably going to be their toughest. But if they get there, give me your thoughts on what this team needs to do to advance. It doesn't matter if they face Seattle, it doesn't matter if they face San Francisco or if they face Minnesota. What does this team need to do? What do they need to fix right now to get themselves to that level of play where they can say, okay, look, we have a legitimate shot at winning the postseason?
I think the good news is they're coming off clearly their best game of the season, and when a game where they played the most complimentary football that they have. That was really the first time this year where I looked at a game and I was like, okay, that shows the promise of this team. And it's tough to obviously put a performance like that out there every single week, where you're getting 4 turnovers in a game and a kick return for a touchdown. One of those turnovers is a pick six. Obviously some things fell in their favor. The ball bounced the right way a couple times, but I think this is the first game where you can look at it and say, hey, we played. I know Minnesota's point differential and DVOA and anything else you want to point to. We can say all that stuff, but this is a 12-win football team, and they went out there and they completely smoked them in every sense of the word. So I really think that this is a game that they can build off of. And I don't think they need to change too incredibly much, but we just kind of hit on the big thing. And that's, offense. They need to find a bit more rhythm. And I think red zone offense, right? We're going to be talking a lot about Packers Lions this week. Bill, I go back to that Lions game. This is a real thing that happened. They had 1st and goal from the Lions 5-yard line, 0 points. 1st and goal from the Lions 1, 0 points. 1st and 10 from the Lions 23, 0 points. 1st and 10 from the Lions 14, 3 points. 1st and 10 from the Lions 17, 0 points. 5 situations where they had 1st and 10 or 1st and goal from the 23 on in, and they got 3 total points in the game. They lost by 6. And the red zone hasn't exactly been better since that game. So I think that's going to be a huge key this week against Detroit, and I think it's going to be a huge key if they do get into the playoffs as well.
I completely agree. I've said time and again, they could have, should have won that game in Detroit. Instead, they threw it away in every aspect, and more so the quarterback play than anything. But they should have won that game. It could be different sitting here today, but hopefully they learn from it, and red zone gets a lot better. I tell you what, Andy, always appreciate it, man, and we'll talk soon. And if they get in the postseason, we'll be talking then again as well, okay?
I can't wait. Thanks so much, Bill.
Appreciate it. There you go. Andy Herman of the Pack a Day Podcast. And he breaks it down. Fantastic stuff. The Pack a Day Podcast. You can read it and listen to it and such with Andy Herman at Andy Herman NFL over on Twitter. Find his stuff there. Also, really, really good stuff. 877-867-1670. Now, think about that for just a minute. All the things that he just stated, when you talk about 1st and 10, 1st and 10, 1st and 10, all inside the red zone, the Packers on 6-7 different drives came away with only 3 points. What kind of confidence does that give you, one, coming into the game on Sunday, or two, what does that say about the Detroit Lions to say when the field shrinks and they have the ability to just get after it? The Packers, 1, they couldn't run it in. 2, Aaron Rodgers was picked off 3 times. They couldn't punch it in through the air. The offense was inept. It stalled. Or maybe they just made some boneheaded plays and it was just a calamity of errors on a particular day in which they just didn't play well. And maybe they just got this coming up on Sunday night. 877-867-1670. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends over there at New Mail Medical, treating guys with ED all over Wisconsin, all over the country. And if you are listening to us anywhere right now and you have an issue, call 414-455-4451. 414-455-4451. Anywhere. And they can say, okay, hey, if you're not here by us, then we'll send you here. And they can do that, okay? Whether it's for ED, how about low T treatments? You don't even know you have low T, but you're over the age of 30 and you're putting on weight, you're feeling sluggish and moody, and you're up and down, no energy, and you're like, wow, why am I just so dead? There you go. That could be it. Otherwise, what about the all-in-one weight loss program? It's 2023. And before it gets here, you're all of a sudden going to be going, man, it's T-shirt season, and I still look like this. I want to drop a few. Great all-in-one weight loss program. That's the way to do it. Go to New Mail Medical, 414-455-4451, 414-455-4451. That's the New Mail Medical Center.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Even when the weather outside is frightful, your energy bill could be much more delightful. Hi, I'm Gina Della from Pella. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. You'll help kick the January blues when you choose to book by the 31st for 0% interest up to 2029. You heard that right. No interest up to the year 2029 if you book by January 31st. Pella's premium wood windows and patio doors feature distinguished craftsmanship and nearly endless possibilities, with maximum design flexibility in dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Hurry. To get the 0% interest up to 2029, you have to book by January 31st. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
And in the ad, or not in the ad, but in the survey from Harley Davidson, it's asking me all the different things that I liked. And there's not anything that I could say I didn't or had a question about. It was such a, and obviously I know Craig, who's the general manager over there, but just the overall experience, getting the bike that I wanted, the accessories, the parts department, obviously the motor clothes and such. Between myself and Kristen, I think we bought 2 houses over there because we enjoy it so much, and the selection of everything going on. It's just a terrific experience. If you're a Harley enthusiast, a motorcycle enthusiast for that matter, and you're looking for a terrific place to go and a new place to kind of just call your biker home. It's Wisconsin Harley Davidson. Go to wishd.com. That's wishd.com on Highway 67 in Oconomowoc, just south of 94. You can't miss it. Right behind the new Dockhound Stadium. wishd.com. That is wishd.com. And they are fantastic with service, great people to talk to, just to BS with. You want to go and just kind of hang out and be around it, just smell motorcycles and tires and such, and just kind of wait for the season, the riding season to get here. Great place to go. Great reason to head over because of the people that work there. That's wishd.com. 877 1670, 877 867 1670. If you want to give us a shout. Apparently, if by chance the Panthers job is actually available, Jim Harbaugh expects to leave Michigan for the NFL if the franchise offers him the coaching job. How about that? Last year, Harbaugh apparently, even though Michigan has done anything and everything they can possibly do to keep him there, and after winning the first Big Ten title in 17 years last season, he has begun looking for another job to get back into the NFL. And much like his brother John, and that's apparently what he wants to do. So rumor has it that if indeed Carolina says we want you to lead our franchise, then Jim Harbaugh is going to be gone, and I guess that'll be the only thing that saves Ryan Day's job. But nevertheless, because he's not. Ryan Day has not, the last couple of years, been able to get over on Michigan. 877-867-1670. Just an update real quick. The Buffalo Bills putting out a little while ago that DeMar Hamlin did spend last night in the intensive care unit at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. He remains there today, still in critical condition. They just say we are grateful and thankful for the outpouring of support that we've received thus far. There aren't any, new updates on his condition. There aren't any really updates as to the condition of the cause of what exactly happened, why it happened, anything like that. I think right now you just worry about the man himself getting well, and then after the fact, hopefully when he clears the woods, so to speak, that you are then able to move forward and begin to diagnose and discuss publicly the cause, the issues, and such, and go from there. But right now, it's just about getting this young man better. So hopefully he's able to get better. 877-867-1670 if you want to hit us up. By the way, the NFL did just release this as well. The NFL continues to be in regular contact with the medical team caring for Damar Hamlin, and also the Bills and the Bengals organizations and the NFL Players Association. After speaking with both teams and the NFLPA leadership, Commissioner Roger Goodell informed the clubs today that the Bills-Bengals game will not be resumed. The NFL hasn't made a decision regarding the possibility of a resumption of the game at a later date. The league has not made any changes to the Week 18 regular season schedule, just that they're going to continue to provide additional information if it becomes available. In other words, they're not going to make the Bills come back and play this game this week, which, when you butt it up against a game that is going to be taking place this Sunday, then what do? It's going to be difficult to all of a sudden say, hey, we're going to play a game on Sunday and then on Wednesday and then another game. My assumption is this is going to be a tie, is the way they're going to make this out to be. It's going to be a tie. And you just let the chips fall where they may when it comes to seeding. Both teams are in the postseason, so it's not going to affect their postseason when it comes to the ability to actually be in the playoffs. As it stands, a tie with because both Buffalo and Cincinnati, they're number 2 and number 3 right now in the AFC. Whoever won that game, if the Buffalo Bills would have won, they would have taken over the top spot and had the bye. If Cincinnati would have won, they would have then had the Bills, the same record as the Bills. And if Kansas City would lose and Cincinnati would win this weekend, then Cincinnati could have taken over the top spot. I think at this point, you just kind of do what's right. And that is say, guys, just prepare for Week 18. We're going to call this one a tie, and we're going to move on. It's the right thing to do. And it's going to be difficult enough for both franchises to move forward and to prepare for Week 18, much less worry about the game that was or was supposed to happen that didn't, to try to then force it in and then turn around injury-wise and have guys play 2 games within, 3 days? Yeah, you just can't do it. So I think that's what the NFL is going to end up doing, is just say this one is going to be a draw or a non-existent game and kind of go from there. I think that's the way it's going to end up happening. 877-867-1670. You want to find us, do it. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's all coming up right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Hey, got our friends at Cruise Plan, your land and sea group. Sand and sea travel. They've got a lot of good stuff going on. Whether it's a cruise, which right now they got some really great deals. As you get into that season, you can plan your trip right now, even for a later date, and just put a small deposit down. They even do finance. So if you're thinking about that dream trip, you can get that done. That's our
Friends over there at Cruise Planners. Get a hold of my buddy Kirk over there, K-I-R-K, and from anywhere. Okay, let me just say that, anywhere. So if you're listening to this program out in Arizona, you're good to go. If you're listening to this program in the UP, you're good to go. If you're listening to it in Milwaukee, you're good to go. 414-430-7880, or go to kirk.canter, K-A-N-T-E-R, at cruiseplanners.com, kirk.canter at cruiseplanners.com. 414-430-7880. I used to love cruising, man. We used to take cruises all the time. And we used to do listener cruises, which were fantastic. We haven't done those in a while. We got to get back to that. But always fun. Man, I loved cruising. Cruising was so fun because it was like you unpacked once, you went to four different cities. It was just awesome. It was just good stuff. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to find us, go ahead and do so. Again, 877-867-1670. You can find us also over on Twitter at Bill_Michaels, and also You can find us at Ben Z Kenny, at Ben Z Kenny. You can find us there as well. Hey, by the way, let me say this for those that are calling the whole vaccination or non-vaccination thing. Okay, we don't know, and I'm not putting a correlation to it. There's a lot of people that have an agenda to this. I don't know. Now's not the time. Just an FYI. I know people are calling up wanting to talk about it, and I'm not going there, and I'm not going there for the reason of we don't know. We don't know. We don't have that information. And we don't know if there is an issue. We don't know if there's not an issue. I don't know. But right now, it's like just now is not the time for all of this, if that makes sense. So just chill. And if there's an announcement later on to be made, I'm sure it'll be made. But right now is not the time. So quit calling Ben and talking about it. And I get it. Every time I get sick, people talk about vaccination. Did you have COVID? Did you not have COVID? Are you vaccinated? Are you not vaccinated? I had a friend of mine who had a coworker they found in the bathroom with an aneurysm, and everybody jumped to the conclusion that it was part of the vaccination process. Turned out he wasn't vaccinated. He had never had COVID. He just had an ailment. And then there was another coworker that had a heart attack, and it was within like 3 days of one another. And he was vaccinated. They don't know. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the correlation is to this. This is not a medical program by any stretch of the imagination. We try to do the best we can to just cover the human element of this. So I understand there's a lot of people that have this desire to know and to point the finger and say, aha, on one side of the argument or the other. But it's, I tell you, this is the forum for that. Now is not the time. I don't, to each his own, I guess. I don't know what to say. So, but I just wanted to make you aware of it.
I've also had about 23 people call in today, refreshing our memory about the Lions player from 2000 or from 1971.
Right. I mentioned.
So for those that are,
for
those that are listening now and missed the beginning of the show, that was noted.
Yeah, I mentioned that early on in the program. As a matter of fact, I think Pac Fan, who follows us over on the Bud Light live stream, I think he had even mentioned it. I think he posted it too, if I remember correctly. But
yeah, Mike Clemens was on with Ebo and Nelson this morning. He actually found the audio from the broadcast.
Really?
When Chuck Hughes went down, and I'll try to get it from him.
Yeah, Mike is Mike's got that kind of stuff. Mike's good with that. So, but yeah, interesting.
Believe it or not, I was not alive.
I was, but I don't remember that. I think I was 4 years old. What was it, 1971? So I was 5 years old, 4.5 years old, something like that. So yeah, I don't remember that at all. But it is what it is. 877-867-1670. This is from Anthony, who says, my heart and soul sank last night watching the player lay there on the ground, understanding the circumstance. It is something that I will never forget. Good coverage today. Thanks so much. This is Chad says, love the show. How can I listen in my car in Menominee, Wisconsin? In Menominee, Wisconsin. Now, I would assume you're not up by Menominee Marinette, or are you? Chad, if you are, then our fine affiliate up there in Menominee Marinette, WMAM, over on the AM side, I believe, carries the program. And I know Jim Callow is listening. Jim, I can't remember what the number is, but if you're listening, text me and let me know. But I think it's like 580 or 530, something like that. And you could probably catch it there. But yeah, up in Menominee, Wisconsin, if that's indeed where you're at. This one's from Kashra, or Shara, I should say. Speaking of the game last night, which left me feeling numb, do you remember back in 1977, 79-ish, the Patriots were playing the Raiders, and I believe his name was Darryl Stingley, paralyzed on the football field on a free play? Yes, that very much came to mind last night. Very much so. Absolutely. This is James who says, last night till midnight, I never heard a crowd so quiet and respect for what was actually happening. Jim, you know what was also interesting in that? Did you see when the Buffalo Bills walked off the field that all of those fans, Bengals fans and Bills fans, applauded, just basically in support? You don't know what else to do, but they sat there and applauded as they were leaving the field as if to say, we appreciate you. That was really interesting last night. It was good to see. And a lot of come together for Bills fans and Bengals fans last night. Steve says, first and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with DeMar Hamlin, his family, the Bills organization, for complete recovery. What a scary situation. I hope we never have to see that again. I'm older, and I remember when Len Bias passed. Oh, remember that? Oh, I remember that too. Yeah, he right there on the court. Oh, I remember that. I forgot all about. I don't want to say I forgot about that, but that was not something that came to the forefront of my memory after last night. He said, I wanted to provide the biggest shout I can to the medical and training staff in Cincinnati. They acted quickly and thoroughly and deserve to be recognized. Also, kudos to Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott for doing absolutely the right thing. The NFL did the right thing by postponing the game as well. That's from Stephen Richfield. Yeah, the NFL took a lot of criticism last night because it was like, okay, we're going to, break and let's go. The NFL, you're making a call from New York and you're seeing the situation. You don't know. You're getting, word, but you don't know. So you're like, okay, get a couple of minutes to regroup and let's go. That's what you do. And exactly kind of the way it should have happened. You don't want somebody in New York making the call to cancel the game when both teams are like, no, we got this. And you don't want somebody in New York saying, no, you have to play. They said, okay, let's give it 5 minutes and 10 minutes and get guys ready again, and then we'll go with it, which gave McDermott and Zach Taylor time to kind of look at one another and go, we can't do this. I credit to Sean McDermott and credit to Zach Taylor, the head coaches of both the Bengals and the Bills, to recognize the magnitude of the human equation and to say, this isn't it. This isn't the time. There's a guy right now whose parents are running down the back stairs trying to get to an ambulance, to get in to an ambulance and be transported to University of Cincinnati Medical Center with their son who just collapsed and died and was brought back to life by a medical team right here in front of everybody. This game, and that's what it is a game, is meaningless in the scheme of life right now. Let's go ahead and pause this because we need to. So kudos to them for doing the right thing last night. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You can find us over on the email, much like all of you did, thebillmichaels@gmail.com, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. It was Hank Gathers that died on the court. You're right. Hank Gathers, not Len Bias. Len Bias died. We had just gotten the report right after he was drafted. He had passed away. It was Hank Gathers, remember, who kind of walked away, staggered, and then collapsed and died. That you are correct. Thank you so much, Joe, for reminding me of that. It was Hank Gathers. Let's see here. This is from Tidbit, who says, Bill, don't you think Goodell has to make a statement today, no matter if there's any new information or not? I believe we need to hear from him. Well, we did hear from the NFL today. We did hear. Now, whether or not he needs to stand before a microphone and take questions, I don't know, but maybe that's something you want. But the as far as the NFL, they made a statement. They made a statement saying that basically they have talked and been in communication with both teams and organizations. They have not made a decision on anything going forward or any adjustment to the schedule of Week 18. But I really think that they're just going to say we're going to call it even and just continue to move on and let the seeding fall where it is. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Hey, if you didn't get one, that's okay. They still have the 2023 season passes available at Great Lakes Dragaway. Go to GreatLakesDragaway.com. That's GreatLakesDragaway.com down in Union Grove, and speed season is going to be here before you know it. You're going to want to be a part of it, whether you're a speedster, a car guy, a car girl, a motorcycle enthusiast, whatever it is, you want to race it, you want to watch it. Check out our friends at Great Lakes Dragaway down in Union Grove. Great Lakes Dragaway down in Union Grove. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Even when the weather outside is frightful, your energy bill could be much more delightful. Hi, I'm Gina Della from Pella. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. You'll help kick the January blues when you choose to book by the 31st for 0% interest up to 2029. You heard that right. No interest up to the year 2029 if you book by January 31st. Pella's premium wood windows and patio doors feature distinguished craftsmanship and nearly endless possibilities, with maximum design flexibility in dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Hurry. To get the 0% interest up to 2029, you have to book by January 31st. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers kept their playoff hopes alive with that big win over the Vikings on Sunday night. David Bakhtiari returned to playing left tackle a month after having his appendix removed. He played on 56 snaps against Minnesota. I asked Dave, How long was he told he could not do any lifting after the surgery?
Yeah, so I couldn't lift anything over 20 pounds for like 3 weeks. Other than that, it was a big question mark on, was kind of asking around. So it was a journey for everyone, including myself. Definitely sucked. Just was really, really weird. But I mean, I'm very fortunate that, like really the last 10 days, it just kind of like took a huge turn for the better. Very fortunate to be where I am.
And after that win over the Dolphins, Bakhtiari was determined to get back on the field. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur.
He told me on the flight home after the Miami game that he said, I'm playing. So I said, okay, well, we'll see. And he was able to get through the week, and I thought he played a really good game.
Up next, the Packers will host the Lions. The kickoff scheduled now for 7:20 this Sunday night on NBC. Head coach Dan Campbell asked if he thinks the Lions are ready for primetime TV.
What do you think? You do? I do too. I do too. So that's not up for me to decide. I know we'll put up a hell of a fight one way or another. Listen, I don't care. I just want to play, So it's coming, and it'll be down the wire, and they'll be there. We'll be there, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be an exciting game.
That's Lions head coach Dan Campbell. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
Continues on. Our friends at the Sunset Grill in Pewaukee remind you that the little karaoke, they've got the trivia and such during the week. They have good food, good drinks. Obviously, they're going to be games and such on the weekend. But if you want to go over and enjoy the view, look out on the lake with the ice on it, the fishing shanties that will eventually be back out there once the weather turns throughout the season. Or if you just want to stop over and just think about the lake being nice and blue and open water in summertime, eventually, they say come on over. That's the Sunset Grill on Pewaukee Road. No more than we were sitting here talking about whether or not
Goodell Roger Goodell did issue a statement through the commissioner. It says, during last night's game between the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals, Bills safety Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field. Damar experienced cardiac arrest and was promptly resuscitated by on-site club physicians and independent medical personnel, all of whom are highly trained in implementing the plans for medical emergencies. Damar was stabilized, transported to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, a level 1 trauma center, where he remains in the ICU. And after speaking with both teams and the NFLPA, I decided to postpone last night's game and have our focus remain on Damar and his family. We are in regular contact with both clubs and with the medical team caring for Damar, and we'll share additional information as we receive it. Earlier today, as the head of player engagement and team clinician for each club received information from the doctor about mental health and support resources that are available to the players and staff. Additional resources, including on-site services, can be available for any club that wishes this assistance. If your club would like to make use of these additional resources, please have your player engagement lead or team clinician contact the NFL's doctor. They have not made a determination regarding Week 18 when it comes to playing this game. We advised both Buffalo and Cincinnati it's not going to be resumed this week, so no decision has been made about the possible resumption of the game at a later date, and they have not changed the schedule. They're going to promptly advise all clubs of any decisions that are made regarding these matters. But basically, the NFL is saying, hey, look, and so that's from Roger Goodell. Basically, he's saying, look, what matters is the health and welfare of the player, and all of us who witnessed this, and players that are going through whatever it is they're going through, because we can't put ourselves in that situation. We don't play professional football. We're not out on that field. They're going through stuff. And if you need help, let's get it. They're worried about the health and welfare. So there you go. Another hour yet to go. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next. what should be the Packers' quest for a postseason. We all witnessed last night in a big game in Cincinnati early on with 5 minutes remaining in the first. Bill safety Damar Hamlin, goes down, suffers a cardiac arrest on the field. He's taken to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. That's at the forefront of our minds. So there's a lot to all of that. So it's kind of a day like I remember, different things that have gone on in history and different things that have taken place here in our own backyard. And is there a good time to transition to the normalcy that we would, be going through versus the moment of what is in front of us? So it's interesting, kind of how people want to transition. We're kind of the escape from reality here. With everything going on in the world, we're kind of the escape from reality. And when the negative side of reality, the tragic side of reality, ventures into our world, it's very tough to escape the normalcy of reality. So, you kind of do the best you can. You maneuver through it and move on. 877-867-1670. That's the phone number. If you want to get a hold of us on Twitter, at Bill_Michaels, at Bill_Michaels, at Ben Z Kenny. You can find him over there. Facebook fan page, which many of you have found. Thanks to everybody that's started watching over there and following us there as well. And over on YouTube. YouTube has grown. Love the fact that YouTube continues to grow and people continue to watch us over there as well. On Twitch TV. The Twitch app, you can download it on your phone. You can watch the show there almost every day. Also, thebillmichaels@gmail.com, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. You can find everything over on the website, which is simply thebillmichaels.com. And then you listen to us each and every day. If you want to go back and listen to something, Ben does a fine job of putting everything together in podcast form on Spotify, Apple iTunes, and over on Google Podcasts as well. You can just search Bill Michaels or Bill Michaels Show and you can find it. So there you go. Ben, I didn't talk to you in the beginning of the program today. So did you sit up and watch this last night unfold before our eyes like the rest of the world?
Yeah, I did. I had a lot going on. I was watching the Rose Bowl actually intently before it and then planned to get some stuff done as the game started. But it was on in the background. I saw it all play out. And I was on Twitter. I mean, it's one of those moments where everybody is on Twitter for that reason, which is kind of it's kind of frightening, right? Where everybody is having that same reaction. I don't know. Aside from all the things you have touched on today, which I echo all those statements, I thought Joe Buck and Aikman and Lisa Salters and Booger McFarland especially, everybody that was on the coverage was terrific in those circumstances. I heard that there's some precedent in those situations for maybe throwing it to like ABC News or to a breaking news crew. But I think they realized that the former players and the broadcasters and Lisa Salters were the ones that were best to handle that. And I thought they did a tremendous job. When they did the whole 5 minutes until they play again, first of all, I didn't think that was remotely possible. But I kept thinking back to like when Ryan Shazier went down and how they ended up playing a full game after that. And it was different circumstances, but he also he got paralyzed.
Right.
Like that's not just an injury that you figure there is a light at the end of the tunnel for Shazier. He never played again. I cannot fathom going back out there and continuing to play after something like that happened. So I kind of went back to the moments that you've touched on, a bunch of them, but the moments where something like that happens and how in the world everything is just put aside.
Right. Yeah, it's boy, when you think about it, I think it was the perfect hit, Shazier, Tua, Hamlin, all of those significant injuries and moments have taken place inside Paul Brown Stadium. I don't know if people realize that, but all of them have taken place there. So interesting. I mean, somebody had actually sent me a tweet a little while ago and said, "Hey, do you think Paul Brown Stadium is cursed?" No, I just think it's a very, the stadium had nothing to do with the perfect hit. Same with Shazier. It wasn't like guys. It's not like Detroit where guys are suffering ACLs and MCLs and such just through non-contact injuries. These are all contact injuries. And it's, as they call that now, it used to be the black and blue division years ago when it was the Packers and the Bears and the Vikings, and you go back years ago. But now, I mean, when you had the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Bengals all beating up on one another, that was the black and blue division. That was just a very violent, hard-hitting, hatred of rivalry, situation in that division, and they just had some significant injuries there. So I don't think it's cursed, but yeah, last night was it was interesting because I was talking to Kristen on the phone and she got into it. I had my sister texting me, friends from Cincinnati texting me. I was texting my cousin who used to be a nurse in the ER trauma center at University of Cincinnati. People that I know aren't avid football followers were texting. I had friends calling to say, "Hey, what have you heard? Is he going to be okay?" Like, just, it was just a really different, encompassing night for many people who had, like I said, it's the human equation. It was the human equation that took over last night. It was not sports fans. It was not prisoners of the moment. It was the human equation that took over last night. And there's no more evidence of that than looking at Damar Hamlin's charity that he wanted to raise $2,500, and it's over $4 million now because people just wanted to do something to support this guy or feel like they were trying to help him in some way do good. And so again, last night, for as much as we rip social media, and we've all experienced some kind of negativity from social media, last night social media became wonderful. You look at the outpouring of support. You can just look at all the names that you follow and all the people that said sending up prayers, and you kind of came together in that internet sphere, if you will, for one common goal, and to say that we were all kind of pulling for this young man and still are. Let's see here.
I also, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know a family friend does some freelance. He is on the sideline of some NFL games as one of the third-party, non-affiliated doctors when it comes to concussions and stuff. I believe. I don't know. I obviously can't talk about it much because there's a lot of rules there. But like all those people out there, the paramedics and the ER docs, but also just those that are the non-team physicians. Like that's not their job. They're normal everyday ER doctors, or they're doing other things. So all of their work, like, you obviously commend it during a situation like that, but it's, commendable all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in these situations.
Absolutely. Steve says, I'm not going to lie. I'm worried about Jamal Williams adding to his rushing touchdown total against the Packers. Watcher says the Lions have a better O-line than Minnesota does, so stopping the run is going to be huge. I felt I had a nervousness about the Minnesota game because I thought that the weapons Minnesota possessed were going to dictate to the Packers defense what it is Minnesota was going to do. What I didn't count on was the pressure put on Kirk Cousins and the tenacity with which the Packers defense played. I didn't count on that. And that showed up the other night. Now you have to, and this is the other thing. And Mark, you bring up a great point. Mark says, what do you think the effect of Damar Hamlin is going to be on teams throughout football? The Green Bay Packers hosting a game, a moment of silence, and also the Detroit Lions coming into Lambeau Field. I don't know. And that's the reason because right now there's a lot of them. It was, I don't know who said it. I think it was Booger McFarland last night said, you get amped up to play a game. You get the physical energy that goes within the body that gets you pumped up to play a game. And then when you see something last night, it's gone. That energy, that enthusiasm, that whatever it is, that adrenaline, it's gone. Okay. So it's very difficult if they would have asked those guys to come back and play. But now you have to get through today, get back in the building tomorrow as a Packer and a Lion, and then have your moment and then get to work. And what you're hoping for, and I think this is where a lot of people are holding their breath, you're hoping to hear something in the next 10 to 20 hours that says he's okay. He's out of the woods. He had a scare. He's okay. He's going to be good. You know, all the vital signs are good. He's breathing well. Brain functionality is there. There's no dysrhythmia or, arrhythmia or anything like that via cardio wise. He's good. He's fine. That's what everybody's hoping. So you can go, okay, let's get back to work. Not that you're going to forget about this, but that it takes that anxiety of, oh my God, I hope he's okay. You're waiting every moment to see if he's pulling through. And sometimes no news is good news, but no news also amps up that level of anxiety because you don't want to hear the worst. You don't want to hear, oh my God, he passed. Oh my God, he's not going to come out of this sedation. So I don't know. Going back to the original question, I don't know what all of this is going to mean for players and their preparation and energy and enthusiasm. You still have something to play for. You still have your job to do. You still have Sunday looming. You still have a competitor that is looking to beat you. You still, have your semblance of normalcy. But this is, I got to admit, this is lingering. I sat there last night and you think of nothing but this player and you think, how are they going to play this coming weekend? How do you regroup from this? This would be no different than if somebody in your building, that you work with every day, that you partner with, and you're walking through your building, this person collapses in front of you. The ambulance takes them away and they've passed. How do you walk into that building and go, okay, how you doing? You can't. That's there. That's lingering. You just don't go back to work like everything's okay. It's normal again. You don't do that. There's a time of down, and some people take longer than others to come out of that. So I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. 877-867-1670. Watcher does say, hey, by the way, don't forget the Lions missing a lot of their line. Their center tackle, they got a guard out too. They've had some injuries. They have had injuries up front. You were absolutely correct. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Point Brewing, San Giorgio, Calderon Club. They all pair up. You know why? They put Italian food together, and it's fantastic. And whether it's the penne sashina pasta, or if you get one of those thin crust pizzas, or the authentic Napolitana pizzeria next door over at San Giorgio, they pair it up with Cider Boys, and they put a great meal together. Gino and the staff do a fine job. So if you're looking for great Italian food, downtown, a night out, or just you want to go down and do a little comfort food, a little family style, and you want to go in and just see a who's who of downtown Milwaukee, sit in the corner and watch the world go by, whatever it may be, stop into Calderon Club or San Giorgio. You cannot go wrong. Great place, great people, great business that's been family owned, that's been downtown for over 20 years, well over 20 years, and thriving and surviving through it all. So stop in and tell Gino and the gang we said hi, and they're just great people and have some of the best Italian food you're ever going to put in your mouth. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show is next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Show continuing on. This portion of the program brought to you by friends at Boondocks Barbecue Burgers and Brew. And good food, great people, great place. And right there on County Road K in Oconomowoc. And if you haven't heard about it, they've got wings. More than just barbecue burgers. They've got wings. They changed the menu often, but they do come up with some really good creations. Had a hell of a New Year's Eve party over there, but just a lot of good stuff. And Tom, who owns the place, his son, is the chef and does some great things. If you're looking for a good place to go, nice, spacious, a lot of TVs, whether it's sitting at the bar, high top table, dining room. They even have a dining space that if you are a veteran, you can request those tables and they will give you priority. It's really cool. So stop out.
And check out Boondocks Barbecue Burgers and Brews, County Road K in Oconomowoc, and tell them we sent you. Go to Boondocks BBQs, boondocksbbqs.com. There you go. Matt LaFleur. Let's get into some of the quotes from yesterday from Matt LaFleur. And one of the concerns, obviously, coming out of that game was David Bakhtiari, the left tackle, and how he held up physically in his first game back from that appendectomy.
Yeah, I think he came out okay, so I didn't hear anything from Flea.
Nothing major there. Did he know that David Bakhtiari would return to play the Vikings?
Well, he told me on the flight home after the Miami game that he said, I'm playing. So I said, okay, well, we'll see. And he was able to get through the week, and I thought he played a really good game. So I thought, obviously we all know the type of edge rushers that the Vikings have. And I thought both our guys, really everybody up front, I thought blocked and did an outstanding job.
So, because we didn't think yesterday in kind of analyzing the schedule and knowing that the Seahawks and the Lions have a feeding off of one another for, playoff ramifications, we didn't think that this game would be flexed to Sunday night. But the one thing that sticks in the back of your mind, is that one, the Green Bay Packers Nation's huge. And two, doesn't matter. Whenever you put the Packers in primetime, man, you get the ratings, and the NFL was going for the ratings and a do or die situation for Green Bay. So what was his thoughts when he found out that, yep, Green Bay is indeed going to be the Sunday night football game?
It really doesn't matter, but I do think the environment in Lambeau Field at nighttime is unlike any other place. So hopefully our fans show up and show out for us and support us, and don't sell your tickets to the Lions fans, please.
Darnell Savage, as we talked about a little bit earlier with Andy Herman, he gets the start, and he kind of, pined for that start again after earlier this season not playing as well. So Matt LaFleur talks about the decision to have Darnell Savage return to the safety position and get the start after being benched for a couple of weeks.
Well, we did it in Miami. Okay, yeah, and it got to a point where we thought he was doing all the little things that we had asked, and it just kind of happened naturally, and there's no denying the talent that he has, and he's a really smart guy as well. So I think anytime you're talking about the safety position, and we gave up, a couple explosive plays in that game, throw him back in there, and he did a really nice job. And I thought same with last night. I thought he did an outstanding job, and was, like I said, just doing all the little things that we want from that position.
So what was it about the communication coming out of Miami where things just, even coming out of that Bears game, where things just got better, where they improved?
I just felt like the overall energy of our defense was up, especially, I guess, really since the second half in Miami. The physicality, the communication, all of it. And I think all of that, guys are playing off one another. Certainly communication's a big part of getting everybody on the same page and being able to go out there and execute. And but I think our guys are just, we're playing a lot better. I think we're playing with a lot more passion. I think it's evident. It shows up all over the tape. Guys are excited. You could see it all last night. I really felt like from the first play all the way throughout the course of the game.
So, the defense, since really the fourth quarter of that Bears game, this defense has been playing tenacious. The turnovers have been coming fast and furious. But does he feel that this defense is finally living up to that expectation?
No, I think you're only as good as your last performance, and we got to continue to, we got a great challenge in front of us. You're talking about one of the best offenses in the league. They've done it consistently throughout the course of the season. We know that certainly they got one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League. I would say, Detroit, Philly, those are arguably the two best. And, I think Jared's been playing at a really high level all year long. Obviously, they got a couple running backs that can really make you pay. Different style of backs as well. And then they got all those receivers that it's an explosive offense. I think they do a great job schematically and present a lot of challenges.
So he basically said, no, you're only as good as your final game. And then went on to praise the Lions and what they bring to the table, if you notice. But did the Packers, have they finally come up, defensively speaking, with protection and pass protection that works?
Well, I think that's a challenge every week. Every game's going to have a little different feel and a different plan. And it ultimately comes down to going out there and making the most of all your opportunities. And I think, certainly we've capitalized and won these games is battle. I think what we got 12 takeaways in the last 4 games. I mean, and when you're on the right side of that gives you a much better opportunity. And so, whereas conversely, when we hit that skid, and for the majority of the season, we were losing that turnover battle, and it makes it hard. And so, we just got to capitalize on those opportunities, try to continue to be very mindful of the ball and go after the ball and contest catches. And that's one thing I think, just talking about our coverage as well, I think we've gotten our hands on more balls as well. And then obviously last night, Slayton had a big, batted ball that got picked off. And so all of that, is kind of led to where we are now.
So Keyshawn Nixon, remember, he was kind of limited. He had the groin issue on Friday and then comes out on Sunday and works out ahead of time. I had taken some video of it and posted it and such. And, but Keyshawn Nixon after the game said he texted coach and said, "Hey, I'm feeling like a Ferrari." So what did Matt LaFleur get that text?
He texted Rich that. So I grabbed him after, practice on Friday, and I was like, "Hey, listen, if you show up Sunday and you feel like you're ready to go, you'll be out there." So that's kind of what happened.
The last couple of weeks we know have been kind of do or die. The Packers have won 4 straight. They had to. So has the last few weeks, so far at least, is it felt like playoff football, like, the do or die situations?
Well, I think we've kind of been in that playoff mindset, when we were sitting there 4-8. So knowing that every game was, I actually think it was probably before that, to be honest with you, just knowing how critical every game was, and to get to this point and for it to play out the way it has is exciting. It's exciting, obviously, for our team, for our fans. But again, we got a huge challenge in front of us, a team that already beat us once this year. And I know that they've got a lot to play for as well. And I think Dan's done a hell of a job just, getting that team to kind of flip the narrative. And I mean, they're a dangerous team. Even some of the games they've lost, they're right there against really good teams. And, we're going to have to play our best ball, no doubt about it.
So how galvanizing for a team? I mean, at some point, everything just kind of starts to come together. You get the win over the Bears, and then after that, you start winning football and in must-win situations. How galvanizing has that been for this team behind the walls of 1265?
Well, I think anytime people go through a little bit of adversity and you can come out the other side, I think it makes you, it calluses you to some degree. And, I think it can bring everybody closer together, because, there was a point there when you're sitting at 4-8 where it can go a lot of different ways. And I think we've all seen it happen like that before. If you've been in this profession long enough, and it's just a testament to the people in this organization and in that locker room, more importantly, that they chose to stick together, to trust one another. And I think that it all happened throughout just our preparation and the way we practiced. And we've seen those improvements that have made a big difference.
And then just a couple of more, but how surprised he was asked, how surprised he's been, thinking that his team was, 4-8. And then all of a sudden now they're sitting here at 8-8. How surprising is it?
I don't ever try to have too many expectations in regards to, it's just, how do you take it each day, stand in the moment, trust in your process, and try to look for, when things aren't going right, try to look for different ways to improve, or how do we have to change something up? What do we have to do to try to get us over the hump and be more successful? And, I think it's a credit to, like I said, just the guys in the locker room, the coaches, everybody just kind of, hunkering down and doing and looking inward first and foremost, and trying to just improve.
And how has he personally changed, or when you talk about improvement, how has he personally changed or improved over the, since that 5-game losing streak early on?
That's a great question. Probably better for the guys around. But I would say that I think that you try to be as consistent as possible, whether you're winning or whether you're losing. You try to be the same each and every day. And I know that can get challenging at times when you get frustrated because these guys are all great competitors and we want to win. And we put a lot of time into this. It's the coaches, the players, the trainers, everybody involved in this thing. And so, but I think you can't put enough emphasis on the character of the people that you're around each and every day. Because, like I said, I've just seen it go the other way before.
So there you go, Matt LaFleur talking to the media. So let's do this. We're going to step out, take a quick break. We'll come back, and we'll continue on. A couple of segments to go before we get out of here. Hang in there. More of the Bill Mike.
Get ready to ride the wave of adventure with groundbreaking new ships and one ultra-chic resort. For the ultimate family vacation experience, introducing Royal Caribbean's Icon class of ships. Featuring thrills you never dared to imagine and a next-level chill you never dreamed possible. Or get more space, more luxury, and more connected to the sea on Celebrity Beyond. Explore Norwegian's new Prima class, designed to elevate every expectation. Or fall in love all over again at the newly reimagined Sandals Dunn's River. This is a vacation designed for you. Call your advisor today to ask about special offers and amenities. Cruise Planners, your cruise and vacation experts since 1994.
Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute.
New digs, maybe you want to refinance, maybe new bills, whatever it happens to be, check out our buddy Scott Ellis, 414-791-7771. If you want to access that home equity, you can do it. Get cash to pay off your debt. Scott can do it for you. He's got years of experience helping people increase their credit scores and getting them on the right financial track. And in addition to that, if you want to, get a home mortgage, you're buying a new home, do what I did. He did an outstanding job for me. He was always available, provided great feedback, great rates, low cost. He'll get you whatever it is you deserve. And all you got to do is call him 414-791-7771. 414-791-7771.
Again, that's 414-791-7771. That's our buddy Scott Ellis and the Ellis team. They can help you out. 414-791-7771. There you go. 877-867-1670. You want to find us, please feel free. Go ahead and do so. You can. This one's from Mark, who says, hey, Bill, what a job today to come in and try to talk sports when real life has invaded us. It's been cathartic just listening to the program. Mo Egger was especially good. I appreciate you having him on. I appreciate it very much. Aaron Rodgers today on the Pat McAfee show had this to say. Take a listen.
As much as there's rivalries and there's distaste for certain individuals that you play against and there's bad blood, at the end of the day, there's one thread that connects all of us, right? And it's that we know that we are the modern day gladiators, right? We are providing entertainment for the masses and doing something we love, but we're also putting our bodies and our future health on the line. And I think that's one thread that connects all of us, that we have a respect for what it takes to go out on the field and play, and the attention to this being a 365-day-a-year job and the stresses of physical health and mental health and emotional health that it puts on us, and that we put our bodies on the line because we love doing it, because we love competing, and we enjoy providing entertainment for people. But at the end of the day, you don't think these type of things are going to happen. And when it does happen, everything gets thrown out. A rivalry, distaste for a certain team, whatever it might be that might separate you a little bit, that's all gone when it's one of your guys. And I the three of you on the show, obviously you've all played. I all feel the same, currently or done playing, like you're shook about this because you just never thought you would see something like this on the field. It's bad enough when you see a guy getting carted off, right? That's like, that messes with you. Or you see a guy take a really bad concussive shot, right? And you're like, man, like, I don't want that to be me. Like, am I going to be able to have my cognitive function that I want at 50 and 60, and what kind of risk am I really setting myself up for? But this kid's 24 years old.
Right. He's right. He's right. Hey, the kid's 24 years old. How do you get past that? I mean, you look, and everything he said is right. Now the one thing he did not say, while we look at football players, or any athlete for that matter, as the modern day gladiators, and it's for our entertainment, and so they're also getting paid a ton of money, but no amount of money equals the loss of a life or permanent disability and such. So there's always that risk, right? There's always that risk. But there is a dollar value to that. You can't ignore that because it is part of the equation. But what we witnessed last night was the human side and the vulnerability and the fact that they aren't pieces of commodity, pieces of meat. They're human flesh. They are real. They feel, they have families, they have mothers, brothers, sisters, daughters, wives, girlfriends, that they're real. That's what came crashing in on us yesterday, was that feeling of emotion and we're sitting there because we look at them as almost indestructible. Almost indestructible. Armani just sent me an email that brings up that point, that said one of the aspects we look at is football players are not breakable. Yes, you can break a bone. Yes, you can dislocate a finger, but you don't die from playing this game. You may be a vaunted warrior that has to sit on the sidelines for the remainder of your career because of an injury, but we never look at you as dying. What we saw yesterday was the human side and vulnerability of football players as real people. And that's an appreciation that I took away from last night. Armani, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's what we ended up walking away with last night, because you look side to side and you say, these guys are supposed to be indestructible, and there, but for the grace of God go I. These guys aren't. That's not supposed to happen. They're supposed to get up, pads, helmets. They're guarded. Health and safety and the protocols have become so prevalent. They're guarded, and they're supposed to have all of that. And it didn't, it didn't end that way. When we come back, I will try to end on a little bit higher note, lighter note, if you will. There is word out of Michigan. Not that Harbaugh is leaving, because that's almost a foregone conclusion should he be offered the job from the Carolina Panthers. But there is the word scumbag being used. Did you hear it? Did you hear about it? We're going to talk about it and let you kind of weigh in when we come back. This portion of the program brought to you by theniceash.com, downtown, 323 West Main Street, downtown Waukesha. As a matter of fact, a buddy of mine's in town. He's down there now. He just texted me, said, hey, I'm waiting, so come on down. So I get off the air today. I'm going to go down and have a cigar with him. I haven't seen him in a while, so we're going to share one, head down there and say hello to some of the fine people at the Nice Ash. Had a great New Year. Ricky and Joette are great people. Just love the staff and management, but it's a great place to go and watch a game, go to relax, go to have a drink, music and entertainment on the weekend. theniceash.com, 323 West Main Street. Just stop in downtown Waukesha. Go in and tell them we said hi. More of the Bill Michaels Show. Wrapping it up next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Even when the weather outside is frightful, your energy bill could be much more delightful. Hi, I'm Gina Della from Pella. Replacing drafty windows and doors can dramatically lower your energy costs. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in the industry, designed to keep the cold outside where it belongs. You'll help kick the January blues when you choose to book by the 31st for 0% interest up to 2029. You heard that right. No interest up to the year 2029 if you book by January 31st. Pella's premium wood windows and patio doors feature distinguished craftsmanship and nearly endless possibilities, with maximum design flexibility in dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Hurry. To get the 0% interest up to 2029, you have to book by January 31st. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers getting ready for their final game of the regular season against the Detroit Lions. If Green Bay wins, they'll secure a wild card spot in the playoffs. The Packers' 38-year-old Mason Crosby talked about that 56-yarder he bounced off the crossbar just before the half Sunday against Minnesota. Was the backspin like a shooter's roll in basketball?
I wish I could say that. I wish, I just, I made sure to have a little bit of, a soft landing. So if it hit that, but I think it was just one of those where it was like kind of the max distance, and fortunately it came down in the right way on the post. So it just landed, I guess, square. With the momentum going forward, and we're able to get it to go the right direction.
The Lions come into the game this week with a record of 8-8 and the first chance since 2011 to reach the playoffs. Lions quarterback Jared Goff.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Not every team, players, young guys get the opportunity to play in games like this. I mean, there's a bunch of guys here who have, for the first half of their career, have not had that chance to play in a game in January that means something. And, we're going to get that chance next week. And whether it gets us in or not, it's not up to us. But, going in there, trying to win and see where everything falls at the end.
The game scheduled for this Sunday night, 7:20 on NBC. Matt LaFleur asked if he would have preferred an earlier start time.
It really doesn't matter, but I do think the environment in Lambeau Field at nighttime is unlike any other place. So hopefully our fans show up and show out for us and support us, and don't sell your tickets to the Lions fans, please.
As Packers head coach Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
and I talk about J&L Tire Service all the time. It's on the Johnson Creek exit, at the Johnson Creek exit off of 94, just north of the highway. You can see it right there. It's trustworthy, it's quality, and it is also warranted work. It's tremendous. And whether you're an over-the-road driver or a soccer mom or whatever it happens to be, from an oil change to a big rig, whatever you need, they can do. They have facilities for both, by the way. So stop in, tell Lyle and Chad and everybody that worked there that we said hi, Happy New Year. And I'm telling you right now, if you want somebody you can trust, people come from all over to bring their vehicles there just because they're that trustworthy. Take it out to J&L Tire Service on the Johnson Creek exit. Two things. First and foremost, by the way, if you have an old number 58 jersey, if you're a Brewers fan, here you go. Alex Claudio is back, the lefty. The Brewers signed him to a minor league contract with an invitation to the major league camp. Alex Claudio is back with the Brewers.
First signing of the year. Congratulations, Bill.
Alex Claudio is back, and it's a minor league signing. Just so you know.
It's more than $0.
Yeah, it's a minor.
They were
league
at
signing.
0.
Ben, let me throw this to you because Hunter Dickinson of Michigan, he doesn't have a fondness for Wisconsin basketball players. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, this is great. So on Valentine's Day, funny enough, Juwan Howard and Greg Gard will meet in the first matchup since the infamous slapping, or I don't know. We called it a hitting. Some wanted to say that he actually softened the blow by opening his hand.
Right.
That's neither here nor there. Hunter Dickinson is their center. He's been there forever. He only knows
47 years old now.
Oh, he's old.
Yeah.
He only knows how to use his left hand. Like he is physically unable to shoot the ball with his right. If you ever watch him play, it's quite remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be in a place where he could just do a right-handed layup, but he'll switch to his left all the time. Anyway, he was on a podcast, and he said this about the Wisconsin Badgers.
Wisconsin, I mean, they're scumbags. That's what it is.
They're scumbags.
They're scumbags. There you go. For those that plan on going to the Michigan game and going out to the Kohl Center when Michigan comes a-calling. Not only was it already going to be a game of we remember, oh, by the way, but now you throw a little more gas on that fire. So there you have it. How about that?
Do you want to play a game of which is the funniest part of this?
Sure, let's do this. It'll give us a little levity before we get out of here.
So I have 3 things about this that I think are hilarious. You decide which one. Number 1, his head coach hit another coach last season.
Correct.
Number 2, he is on the podcast with Jordan Bohannon, known Iowa Hawkeye.
Yes.
And he himself, Hunter Dickinson, has been in some dirty plays.
Right.
Or 3, Michigan has lost 2 straight games last week, one of them to Central Michigan. And they absolutely stink this year.
Yeah, they're not a good team. And I would go with 1 because they're scumbags, but your coach reached out to go after another coach. So I don't know on the level of scumbagginess. I'd have to look in the mirror. I don't think Michigan owns one, but they might want to stop off, even if it's a cheap one. Go over, a little bit cheaper, but looks nice. Go over to Target. Target's got some nice mirrors, something that's not really expensive. I'd buy a few of them, put them up around campus, so some of these guys have something to look into. I'm good with that. We can even start a little bit of a GoFundMe page for that if we need to do so. We can do that.
Oh, there's never been a mirror that a Michigan person did not enjoy.
Yeah, well,
that.
But that mirror is like the mirror on the wall. Tell me I'm the best of all. That's not the mirror on the wall. Tell me that balls. Let's be honest. So Michigan needs to buy a few mirrors, I would say. Just saying. Hey, by the way, final stat before we get out of here today. Aaron Rodgers started and finished 4 games against the Lions in the final week of the season. For those that were asking, I don't know what the record is at home against the Lions on a night game. I don't have that sitting in front of me, but Aaron Rodgers, 4 games against the Lions in the final week of the season. He is 4-0 with 1,157 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a quarterback rating of 109.1. Now, a lot of that's in the past with a lot of tremendous talent around him, but I just wanted to let you know that that's the way the season has ended with the Detroit Lions when Aaron Rodgers starts and finishes games against that team. So there you go. Just thought we'd throw that out there. So we end on the, oh, by the way, Michigan seems to think that the Badgers are scumbags, and the other team from Michigan has not been able to beat Aaron Rodgers on the last game of the regular season when Rodgers plays, starts, finishes the entire game. So there you go.
I also would like to close with a shout out to my Tulane Green Wave. A miraculous win over USC in the Cotton Bowl yesterday.
There you go.
Crazy comeback. Awesome story. Tulane football's back.
Boy, I'll
the
tell you
SEC is the best.
Caleb Williams, man. Did you watch Twitter? There's not a lot of people that like that guy. He's gotten a little full of himself from when he was deciding where he wanted to go. Some of it's vitriol from Wisconsin fans that were bitter he didn't come here, but just nationally.
Probably.
Woof. Boy, not a likable character. That'll do it. Great stuff today, and thanks for kind of participating in the show and understanding as we all go through the process and such together. That's what this show is for. So we appreciate it.